Chapter 1352. In the sky on one side of the long bridge, an incomparably sacred yet endlessly strange image was frozen in this scene. Like a god and a mad demon, two auras were fighting for control with the body of the man hanging in the sky as the battlefield. Only one of the two auras could be distinguished, the aura of the origin energy, and there was more than one. He could roughly guess that something had happened in the world where the rules materialized last time, but he had no idea what had happened. As for the other kind of energy, he had no idea at all. He had never seen this kind of destructive non-order energy in the void. It was so dark and crazy, countless times stronger than the nirvana element on Maple's body. If the origin energy represented the origin, order, and holiness, then the black mud-like energy represented the opposite of the origin energy, the end, chaos, and darkness. That energy was on par with the origin energy. At this moment, these two types of energy were fighting with Maple's body as the battlefield. However, the latter's desire to destroy and destroy was very firm, while the origin energy seemed to be just casually defending. It seemed that it was only because it had encountered their carrier that it had to defend symbolically. It was full of inertia, although the mark of the origin energy expanded in the air and the energy reaction was so brilliant and magnificent, it was actually lazy. Anyway, when Hui saw through this grand confrontation, he was a little desperate. Maple! A shout containing the vibrating energy of the rules penetrated the space and rushed into the confrontation domain. We tried to wake Maple, who seemed to be in a coma, but it was useless. When the energy rushed to the edge of the area, it was shattered by the aftermath of the confrontation. What the hell is going on? Hui was so anxious that he was sweating all over. Maple had been following them secretly, and they had entered this space together. However, when they sensed that something had happened to Maple, it was when they had just entered this space. Didn't that mean that when they entered this space, Maple had arrived directly in this space and was affected by that strange energy? Now, little angel, and see, you were also unconscious. No one knew what had happened. They stood still and looked at each other blankly. Maple! I heard you. I heard you. I'm not dead yet. Can you not shout so sadly? After Hui shouted again, Maple's helpless and weak response suddenly came from the soul. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then they all breathed a sigh of relief. But then, their expressions became serious. Although they had confirmed that Maple was fine, but the current situation, what the hell was going on? Hearing Maple's forced and calm tone, we hurriedly said, "What the hell happened? We entered this space together. How did you? What are those things? What is it? I also want to know. But soon, I will probably know what it is after a while." Yun Nuoshing sighed helplessly in the soul and slowly explained what had just happened. Fortunately, they were not separated. However, the situation was a little different. They were directly thrown into the second long bridge. The nightmare also happened the moment they appeared. The moment they entered, Yun Nuoshing could feel that the origin energy was stimulated and suddenly rushed out. Then, the space was like a chain reaction. The black mud that was colorless immediately appeared from the space and covered the entire sky. It was as if it had gone crazy. He only had time to push the little angel and see you out of the space, but the impact of the origin energy and the unknown energy still knocked them unconscious. Then he was hung in the sky like a fool, watching the two forces of energy fight with all their might. They wanted to kill him at the same time, but he could do nothing about it. Oh, actually, that was not the case. Well, that's what happened, Yun Nuoshing said in a relaxed tone. We guessed that he was going to shrug when he said that. We don't know more details. They are some kind of true reflection in this space, lurking here together with the rule fragments of the realm of the gods. That is to say, they have appeared in the realm of the gods and left a deep impression on the realm of the gods. Also, they were stimulated by the origin energy because I brought the origin energy and stimulated them, so… I seem to have thought of something. Have you thought of something? Ah. Huey's face became gloomy and incomparably solemn. The latter part of their conversation was communicated in each other's soul seeds, and no one else could hear it. If your memory is not wrong, it involves the origin energy, the realm of the gods, and the mud. These three things put together to form a scene, the scene you saw, the scene where the heavenly god of destruction was defeated by the unknown race and the unknown, vague dark energy. That mud perhaps is that dark energy, the same level as the origin energy. That makes sense. This could also explain how they could injure and even kill the great heavenly god of origin. But does this kind of energy really exist in this world? Huey's eyes widened in horror. Does this kind of energy that is the same level as the heavenly god of origin, but completely opposite in nature, really exist in this world? I've never even heard of it. That's not something we can delve into now. Yun Nuoshing sighed. So, we don't have to waste our time on this place. The origin energy and this, let's call it annihilation energy for now. I felt part of its nature when I fought against it, so this name should be quite suitable. They still have to fight for a while. I have a way to solve the problem before us, but the success rate is still uncertain. However, according to my own nature, the success rate is actually quite high. What I mean is, you guys don't have to worry about me and keep moving forward. I can feel the presence of life in the depth. Perhaps that fellow who opened the door has already reached the deepest part of this dimension. Oh, by the way, leave the two girls with me. I have to wait for them to wake up before I make my move. Hui wanted to say something, but after opening his mouth for 2 seconds, he took a light breath and pursed his lips in silence for a while before finally saying quietly, "If that's the case, then we'll wait for your safe return." After saying that, Hui waved his hand fiercely. "Let's go. Keep moving forward until we reach the deepest part of this dimension." Everyone stared blankly at the Lord Protector, who stubbornly left without looking back. Gritting their teeth, they remembered Lord Feng's words and Lord Huey's words, and collectively saluted Lord Feng before bursting into the depths of this dimension. Seeing the group of people rush forward with their hearts in their hands, Yun Nuoshing helplessly let out a long sigh. He struggled free of his bound body, and let out another long sigh. This time, it was truly a troublesome situation. He controlled his mental and soul strength, and the space in front of him quickly distorted due to the collision of several types of energy. The distorted vortex suddenly caved in, and an explosive energy burst out from the distorted space. The distorted black lightning burst out for a distance of 4 to 5 meters, tearing open a crack in this abnormally tough dimension. Phew! He gritted his teeth and squeezed out the last of his mental and soul strength. He felt that in a situation where two of the most powerful types of energy in the world were fighting against each other, forcefully using his mental and soul strength to move something was suicidal. He could only use 2 types of energy to protect his weak soul, and now that he had used most of it, his soul became much dimmer. The small crack in the spatial vortex lasted for about a minute before the entire dimension suddenly stabilized. Then, a sharp purple-black object slowly emerged from the bottom of the vortex. When most of its body had emerged, it could be seen that it was the Netherworld Ruin Sword. Originally, it had been suppressed by the energy in his pendant and couldn't move. Now, because the 2 types of energy were fighting against each other and couldn't divert their attention to him, he forced a hole in it. This action alone drained him of all his strength. After the Netherworld Ruin Sword emerged from the dimension, it floated to the side. The 2 types of energy here. The 2 types of energy that couldn't be bothered with it, didn't affect it. However, Yun Nuoshing still saw it spontaneously use part of its energy to create a vacuum of energy, just enough to protect itself. This slight display of rationality made Yun Nuoshing's eyes flicker. The Netherworld Ruin Sword from the Dark Age wasn't damaged, but for some reason, its soul and consciousness were completely dormant. It was so dormant that he couldn't sense its consciousness at all. In fact, until now, in Feng Ling's memories, he hadn't seen the Netherworld Ruin Sword show any signs of self-control. At this moment, it seemed to have sensed danger, which was why it barely reacted. I don't know why, but I really miss the unreliable soul in the Netherworld Ruin Sword. Yun Nuoxing let out a long sigh that hurt his teeth. He thought for a while and felt that it was because it was a little troublesome for him to control what was about to happen, so he especially missed the Netherworld Ruin Sword that could float around on its own. Speaking of which, he suddenly remembered that in the ancient age, the Netherworld Ruin Sword's soul and consciousness were completely unresponsive. At that time, it actually showed signs of damage, but it was just a little and didn't have much of an effect. It wasn't until the 139th era, when the Netherworld Ruin Sword was completely destroyed. Oh, that was his own fault. When he fell in the ancient age, he went crazy and self-destructed, destroying the Netherworld Ruin Sword along the way. The other divine swords were nowhere to be found. Yun Nuoxing separated a part of his soul and attached it to the Netherworld Ruin Sword. Fortunately, even though he wasn't the original owner of the Netherworld Ruin Sword, perhaps because he had carried it for a long time, it didn't reject his soul. At that moment, he was experiencing the novel feeling of looking at the world from the perspective of a sword. After a few seconds, he stopped playing. There didn't seem to be any difference, and the place where his vision appeared, the place where his eyes were located, was actually where the sword's guard was, but the Netherworld Ruin Sword didn't have a guard. Yun Nuoxing controlled the Netherworld Ruin Sword to fly around in the sky, drawing out streaks of energy trails. After playing for a while and waiting for his soul to recover a little, he took a deep breath and shouted into the soul of Little Angel, "Girl, wake up." Awakened by a familiar soul power, the little angel opened her eyes in a daze. She saw a large, thin, purple-black energy trail. She paused for a moment, then took a closer look. It was the Netherruin sword that was accelerating and accumulating an enormous amount of energy. When it rushed out with that energy, it caused the space around it to tremble slightly. "Little star. Lass, wake up and get ready. No matter what you see later, you just have to trust me. After that, if something jumps out from my body later, you have to kill it first. Don't worry about me. Remember this well. Kill anything that might come out of my body first. Don't leave a single speck of dust behind." Yun Nuoxing's voice sounded in the mind of Little Angel. She tilted her head and hurriedly got up from the ground and flapped her huge wings. When she woke up, she suddenly remembered the last scene before she fainted. When she turned her head, she saw the scene that shocked her. "Little star, you." "Okay, I got it." She didn't care about the cause and effect of everything. She would find out later anyway. Now, she hurriedly adjusted her state and began to gather energy in her hand. This time, the angelic holy sword was no longer in the shape of a slender longsword. Instead, it was a special version that was engraved with part of the Netherworld Ruin Sword's power. Little Angel couldn't control it very well. She wouldn't take it out under normal circumstances. If he hadn't said it so seriously, she probably wouldn't have used it. When Little Angel was ready, she took a deep breath and used her free hand to protect Siyu with holy energy. Then, she nodded at Yun Nuoxing in the strange scene. She was ready. When she received the signal, Yun Nuoxing's eyebrows twitched. She gritted her teeth and drained all of her energy. She emptied her body to the point where the two extreme energies could enter her body at any time. She poured all of her energy into the Netherworld Ruin Sword. The Netherworld Ruin Sword that had been flying in the sky and accumulating energy and speed left a huge purple-black curve in the sky. It turned around and rushed toward its controller. Little Angel saw this and wanted to rush out in fear. However, the Netherworld Ruin Sword was faster than her. In a flash of lightning, the giant sword pierced through Yun Nuoxing's chest. The condensed energy pierced through his mind, soul, and body. The collision of the two energies created a huge gap of thousands of feet. The special energy of the Netherworld Ruins sword cut all elements and energies in the area in half, including Yun Nuashing herself. Unable to stop himself from spitting out a mouthful of golden blood, Yun Nuashing looked down at the hilt of the giant's sword in front of his chest. The pain made his pretty face contort into a hideous expression. That unreserved attack with the Netherworld Ruins sword's energy attribute had cut him in half. The physical body of energy quickly faded away, leaving only the body of energy. Moreover, it was rapidly dimming as the three energies clashed and exploded. The purplish-black energy surged in his body, cutting the two energies that had occupied his body in half. The origin energy was forced back into the origin mark. The sword that pierced his chest made him feel as if his soul, spirit, and body were about to be split apart, and then cut into two independently. In that strange sensation, he seemed to have vaguely seen something as some fragments burst out of his body. They were not his own, but had surged into his body along with the annihilation energy and into his soul. Those fragments that burst out contained a lot of information, and he could vaguely see some terrifying scenes. Standing on the realm of the gods and looking up at the sky that was almost burnt out, the fragments of the world's light were burning and spinning as they fell from the void and withered. He saw the blurry figure of what seemed to be the heavenly god of origin being pierced by the annihilation energy that drowned a part of the void, and he saw it from the first-person perspective. He also saw that figure. It was that figure again, who had single-handedly repelled an army, and was besieged and hunted, but this time, he did not see the flash of destruction. Many scenes flashed before his eyes like a merry-go-round. In that instant, he forgot about the pain, and his eyes were blank. The black energy, after throwing up a large pile of energy fragments as if he was vomiting blood, quickly dissipated like the ebbing tide. It gathered from all directions in his body, and finally condensed into a colorless ball the size of a head where the Netherworld Ruins sword had pierced his back. It broke free with a squelch and hurriedly flew into the distance, as if it wanted to escape. Seeing this scene, the shocked little angel immediately reacted. Wrapped in light, she appeared in front of the ball's escape route. The angelic holy sword, which contained part of the Netherworld Ruins sword's special energy, swept across. The annihilation energy, which did not have time to change direction, crashed into the angelic holy sword and was sliced in half. The angelic holy sword in little angel's hand collapsed, turning into a sea of golden fire that enveloped the two halves of the annihilation energy. The high temperature of the flames caused the space to distort. Little Angel could feel the scene of the crazy and dark energy being purified, but there was no movement at all. It also seemed to feel that there was a consciousness that originated from the annihilation energy, watching it burn itself into nothingness. The strange feeling made Little Angel's heart tremble a little. Little Angel did not hear the analysis of the two people, and she felt a faint fear of this energy that was about to destroy itself in such a cruel and self-destructive way. However, when the origin energy confronted her, it was severely injured by the Netherworld Ruins sword. Little Angel was like an arrow at the end of its flight, and it was soon burned into nothingness by the angelic holy flame that she had been accumulating for 4 to 5 minutes. Little star. Turning around abruptly, the origin energy and the mark of origin disappeared along with the disappearance of the annihilation energy. The moment it turned around, it happened to see the mark of origin turn back into an ordinary mark. Seeing him lose consciousness and fall into the sea of energy below with the Nethervoid Ruins sword, it hurriedly flew towards him and caught him, who was so weak that he was on the verge of dissipating, and flew back to the stone bridge. The Netherworld Ruins sword had uncontrollably detached itself from Yun Nuashing's chest through spatial teleportation. It floated by the side. The purplish-black greatsword was stained with golden blood, making it look more terrifying than ever. When the little angel was not paying attention, the golden blood quietly melted into the sword. A golden light appeared on the blade of the sword, and then it dimmed. The Netherworld Ruins sword seemed to have gained something else. The converted pseudo-divine power flashed on her jade hand and healed the huge wound that pierced through her energy body. She put on an expression that was hard to tell whether she was laughing or crying. She could not suppress the pain in her heart. The sword seemed to have stabbed her, and she could feel the pain too. How can you not even let yourself go when you're crazy? Well, I have no choice. I'll die if I wait any longer. The origin energy and the annihilation energy have split me in half. If I don't get rid of them as soon as possible, I'll still die. Let's take a gamble. Yun Nuoshing smiled bitterly and shook his head. His body had been annihilated, and only a pure energy body was left. He was actually struggling at death's door, but even the energy body had been annihilated. He could no longer feel pain. The only thing he could feel was that he was watching his life slipping away bit by bit. Actually, I was lucky this time. The replicated annihilation energy was not controlled, and the origin energy was also carelessly defending against it. Both of them had been weakened, and they were only resisting with a little bit of instinct. I don't dare to imagine. If these two types of energy at the level of the origin heavenly gods were really messing around in my body, I would probably be dead by now. The little angel did not know whether to laugh or cry. She could only bend down and hug him gently, using her own energy to restore his energy body that was about to be extinguished. Yun Nuoshing grinned. That thing is definitely dead, right? Yes. I've been really unlucky recently. Whether it's this era or that era, I've been really unlucky during this period of time. There are always some terrible things happening. Yes, it'll be fine. The annihilation energy. The culprit or accomplice that caused the fall of the origin heavenly gods. I think I saw something just now. The burning void, the fallen heavenly gods. It's all in the past. Yes. Yun Nuoshing's eyelids trembled slightly. I'm sorry, I might need you to look after me for a while more. I'll wake up very soon, very soon. Hearing the voice of the person in her arms gradually disappear, the little angel bit her lip and looked at the energy figure that was about to completely disappear. It was so transparent that she could see her own hands that were hugging him, as if there was only a layer of glass between them. She revealed a smile that was slightly better than crying. Anyway, I've already gotten used to it. You're the idiot that makes people worry. You're the most hopeless idiot in the world. She sniffed, and her wings wrapped around the unconscious Siyu. Her arms carried the idiot that was about to disappear, and she quickly flew into the depths of space. Chapter 1353. Looks like someone's coming in. At the end of the bridge was a huge platform that was pieced together by countless flat stones. It looked normal on the surface, but when one looked below and around the platform, one would feel that they were looking at a stone porcupine. It was more like a floating island, with a radius of around 30,000 meters. Here, it was more like an island in the sea of energy, with one side of the stone platform so flat that it could be seen at a glance. In this space, the sea of energy became turbulent once again. The huge waves on both sides of the bridge rose to a height of 1,000 miles and slammed heavily on the surface of the sea of energy, creating a 10,000 zhang-wide crack in the sea of energy. It would take a while for the seawater to submerge this place again. A 10,000-mile-wide tornado appeared on the surface of the sea of energy, sucking the sea of energy into the sky and turning it into raindrops that were thrown over a radius of 100,000 miles. There was also a violent storm that was faster than the speed of sound. However, there was a faint layer of energy radiance floating on the bridge that resisted all the violent elements and allowed the raindrops to fall on the bridge. This time, the turbulent sea of energy did not extend to the front along the line of sight. After it passed the floating island platform, it suddenly tilted at an angle as if the ground in front of them was rising abruptly, forming a 60-degree angle with the ground. That was how the sea of energy before them was. When it rushed to the space before them, the entire sea tilted at that point. At the center of the tilted slope, a dark and deep vortex appeared. The vortex was thousands of feet wide, swirling seawater and stirring up huge waves on the surrounding sea. Even if the waves were to reach the distance away from the slope, they would not directly crash down from the sky and would simply slam back onto the slope. That place seemed to follow a different rule, or perhaps it was only the sea of energy that was the case. The white-haired Xing Lu's robe was fluttering in the wind. He and Xian Lei were standing at the furthest point of the floating island, sticking close to the slope. The position parallel to the platform was the center of the giant whirlpool. From this angle, they could see the whole picture of the whirlpool. They could also see the deep darkness in the center. They couldn't see the bottom. They could only see the endless darkness as if it led to the endless void. There were other sounds in the space other than the one he was in. It came from far behind, and Xing Lv could not help but look back. At the end of his sight, there was no one else on the bridge, but he was sure that someone was coming from there, and could possibly bring along 100,000 levels of firepower to stab him in the back. Xing Lv deeply believed so, and he knew that once those people behind him arrived, he would most likely lose his life. What he could use as a bargaining chip now. He looked back at the front again, and Xian Lei was floating about 2 to 3 meters away from the stone platform. There was a crystal formed by his energy between his hands. Xian Lei closed his eyes slightly, sensing something through the crystal. The vortex in the sea of energy seemed to be fluctuating because of his sensing control. The edge of the vortex trembled slightly, and the whole thing was somewhat unstable. The spinning speed was sometimes fast and sometimes slow, and the surrounding waves would occasionally hit the vortex heavily, almost causing it to collapse a few times. As the entire vortex became more and more unstable, the movement from the depths of the vortex became more and more obvious. There were muffled sounds as if something huge was breathing, and there were frequent energy explosions at the edge of the vortex. Xian Lei heard him and opened his eyes. After a while, he gently closed them again. The energy nodes I left behind can sense their arrival. They are very fast and should still be within the allowed range. I'm almost there as well. I can take out the secret weapon in at most 5 minutes. Although it's impossible for us to reverse the current situation, but it should be able to help us negotiate. After all, it's a legendary item in the realm of the gods. They should care a little about it, right? Xing Lv couldn't help but smile bitterly. What he was most afraid of was that the crowd of masters of the realm of the gods would rush up without a care. They were not interested in the so-called secret weapon at all. Then, he would really be finished. Speaking of which, his right eyelid kept twitching. Was he finished? Right now, he could only believe in Xian Lei. It was the person he trusted the most. Right now, there were only the two of them, and he couldn't help. He could only pray that it could take out that item a little faster. Boom! A huge and violent energy explosion came from behind again. This time, the explosion was very close. The shock wave caused by the explosion caused the supersonic storm in this space to stagnate for a few seconds. The long bridge shook violently for a few seconds, and dozens of tornadoes in the distance were almost shattered by the shock wave. It was the first time Xing Lv felt such an unreasonable level of destructive power. His eyelids trembled, and a few black lines drooped down. He felt that his shoulders were a little heavy. With this kind of movement they are attacking the gatekeepers formed by the rules. We used a trick to go around the gatekeepers, which saved us a lot of time. If they want to break through it directly, it should take a lot of time. Although that's the case, there are only 3 gatekeepers in total. With that kind of destructive power, I'm afraid it won't last more than 5 minutes. Xing Lv swallowed his saliva and turned around. Xian Lei, you can do it. I'll go and see if I can block it. Block. Xian Lei was stunned. When he turned around, he saw Xing Lv rushing out with an aura of death. He hesitated a little because of this. 2 seconds later, he gritted his teeth and focused all his attention on the crystal in his hand, guiding the item in the vortex to quickly float up. Boom boom. Xing LV stopped when he was still 100 miles away from the entrance. As soon as he stopped, he felt an energy that made his soul tremble explode in the distance. The explosive energy rushed into the sky and formed a huge destructive energy ring. Even if he was separated by 1 or 2 dimensions, he could still see it clearly. Furthermore, he was definitely closer this time. He could feel the tremors of the bridge becoming clearer and clearer. As he got closer, one of the tornadoes was destroyed. The energy seawater that was swept up seemed to be rushing out of a huge container, rushing in all directions. Xing LV took a deep breath and said, "The second layer of defense has been broken through. The last gatekeeper is a very strange thing. Although it is a life engraved by the rules of the realm of the gods, I can't think of any life in this void, in this great Yuan realm, that has such a strange energy aura. That aura seems to want to annihilate everything in the world. No matter how strong they are, they should need 1 or 2 minutes to deal with it. I might be able to deal with it for 2 minutes. There's still time." Just when he finished his analysis and his confidence skyrocketed, a white light suddenly flashed in the teleportation zone 100 miles away. At the same time, a huge wind blew by on the right side of his body, making his robe and white hair dance wildly. He opened his eyes wide and turned his head stiffly to the back. His neck made a sound that sounded like a rusty iron door opening, boom. It was only at this moment that the sound exploded, but it was already over. He stiffly saw a thing that was thousands of feet tall, surrounded by energy that was even darker than the endless void lying there. It was the last gatekeeper. It had just brushed past his ear, just a millimeter away. This should have been calculated, right? It only blocked for less than half a minute. No, it was a topic worth discussing whether this could be considered as blocking. This gatekeeper seemed to have been sent flying in a single blow, and it was a one-hit kill. Its body collapsed in 2 or 3 seconds, leaving only a part of it. Xing LV adjusted his heart rate, which was a beat slower, and turned his head abruptly to look at the teleportation zone. There, streaks of white light appeared, and they were already moving forward even before they materialized. Each of these figures carried an aura that was driven to the point of insanity, as if these people had gone mad. Xing LV looked at the thousands of figures that appeared and felt his teeth and heart twitching. In just 5 or 6 seconds, 10,000 figures had appeared in the teleportation zone, and the teleportation showed no signs of stopping. The figure at the front had already materialized. It was a handsome young man in a white robe, surrounded by an incomparably holy aura that made Xing LV feel a sense of closeness. Even if that holy aura was like the sun with a hint of madness, it reduced Xing LV's hostility by half. In an instant, Xing LV knew who this figure was, the guardian of the celestial realm. He was very close to the millions of lives in the celestial realm, and basically no one would take the initiative to go against him. These were all legends, and this was the first time Xing LV had seen this legendary figure. He could not help but look at him a little more. He was holding a long sword that was 2 to 3 meters long, and the tip of the sword was a foot-long, sharp, diamond shape. The whole sword was engraved with holy patterns, and as he walked, a golden trail was left on the ground. He was clearly a guardian, but he had such an extremely tyrannical killing aura that Xing LV could not stand. Swoosh! At this time, the teleportation in the entire teleportation zone finally stopped. Xing LV looked around and saw that there were about 30,000 people, more than 1,000 high-level origin, more than 100 peak-level origin, and the rest were basically all mid-level origin. He felt that it would be better if he just surrendered. He finally understood why the Guardian was sent flying as soon as they met. Against this army, unless it was the heavenly god of the beginning, anyone would be sent flying as soon as they met. He was delusional to think that he could last for a minute or 2. Boom! Just as Xing LV was thinking about how to look better by surrendering, a combined aura suddenly pressed down on him, making him tremble violently and almost suffocate. His eyes focused, and he saw that the people who were still some distance away from him suddenly appeared in front of him. 10 people surrounded him in the center, and all their auras fell on him, including the guardian. He stared at the young man in front of him, and his eyes flashed with a terrible light. The guardian's holy sword behind him made a buzzing sound, as if it wanted to beat the person in front of him up. Xing Lv shrunk his neck. No matter how he calculated in his heart, his chances of winning were just decreasing, from 50% to 0. He could not help but laugh. Well, do you treat the captives well? Hui narrowed his eyes and looked him up and down. 59 divine flames and devil thunders, and 47 divine flames and devil thunders in a chain reaction. It seems that the second secret weapon has been opened. Boy, you really know how to cause trouble for me. Seeing that the people around him, including the 30,000 soldiers, were looking at him as if they wanted to tear him alive, Xing Lv's body suddenly trembled. He thought that the opening of the secret weapon had caused too much trouble, but he did not know that Hui was talking about the trouble in this space. He did not know what happened to Maple. Although he had returned to normal, he had become incomparably weak. Right now, he was so angry that he wanted to swallow the person in front of him alive. It was a pity that this person was from the realm of the gods, and he looked like a good seedling. With proper training, it should not be difficult for him to reach the peak of the source realm, and he was also special. Hui's face was gloomy, and he reached out to Xing Lv. Xing Lv's face was pale, and he was a little annoyed, but there was nothing he could do. After all, he was the main culprit who caused the current situation in the realm of the gods. More importantly, he could not beat them. Just as he was about to stretch out his neck to be slaughtered, he saw Hui's hand fiercely pat his shoulder. He used a little too much force, and Xing Lv was directly slapped to the ground. Then he heard the guardian say in a deep voice, "Tie him up and take him away. As for how to deal with him, let Maple decide." Xing Lv grimaced in pain, but when he heard those words, he was stunned again. When he saw Green cupping his hands, 2 people came up to him and dragged him up from the ground. He was so confused that he asked, You're not going to kill me? You should be glad that you're from the realm of the gods." The one who answered him was not Hui, but Green, who was dragging him away. At this moment, his face was also as gloomy as water. "But this is just a reason to let you live for the time being." Xing Lv's face was blank. Was he going to kill him or not? He wanted to ask whether they were going to slice him or not, but when he saw the frozen air, he did not say that sentence out loud. "What do you mean? There is something dangerous hidden in this space that has affected the observer. He is now in danger. The reason is not far-fetched, and you don't have to be dissatisfied. Right now, the realm of the gods is being watched by a whole 1,000 trillion lives. This is just a base number. The actual number that will appear in the end may be several times this number. It is related to a legendary secret of the realm of the gods, so the 2 of you have no choice but to come and take a look," the other person who was dragging him away explained in a deep voice. Xing Lv suddenly felt that even if he suddenly died, it would be a matter of course. The legendary observer was indirectly half dead because of him. Just thinking about it was exciting. Ah no, just thinking about it was killing him. "Let him go." A delicate voice suddenly made the atmosphere in the space even more solemn. Countless eyes suddenly turned to look at the tilted vortex. There was a figure that was emitting black energy and thunder. Its palm was pressed against a long diamond-shaped cylindrical crystal. The surface of the crystal was purple, and inside it was a cloud of energy that was constantly rolling like a nebula. It cast a beautiful color, and if one looked at it, it was as if they could see a starry sky. This crystal was taken out from the whirlpool of the sea of energy, but it wasn't completely taken out. There were still some energy lines connecting the crystal and the bottom of the whirlpool. However, after this 3-meter-tall crystal was taken out, the space suddenly showed signs of instability. The sea of energy surged with huge waves, and the tornado expanded wantonly. It became even more violent, and the vibrating energy made the space on the verge of collapse. The mystic thunder calamity flame, third on the divine flame list? We looked at the situation in the space, frowned, and did not pay attention to it. We won't let him go. He is your host, right? Go back. For the time being, we will not do anything to you. It is another person who should make the judgment. Being stared at by Black and the others, Xian Lei's body trembled. He looked at Xing Lv, who was caught, gritted his teeth, and said, "Once the secret weapon is taken out, this space will collapse. It will take some time for those people to come over. With your ability, you should be able to handle this. Let him go, and I will give you the secret weapon." "No, we don't care. Whether it is the secret weapon or those people, we don't care. We just came to see which bastard made the commotion." Huey's indifferent words made Xing Lv and Xian Lei smile bitterly. Sure enough, it was the worst result. The Guardian did not care about the so-called secret weapon. This time, they really had no way out. They could not beat them, and there was no bargaining chip. It seemed that they could only brace themselves and walk forward. They could only pray that the mysterious observer would be safe and sound. After all, his little life was tied to that lord. Xian Lei was also afraid of taking action. He racked his brains and could not think of any perfect way to get out of this situation. He and Xing Lv had been in the world of the gods for so many years, but this was the first time they encountered such a desperate situation. He had no clue at all. "No, wait. You take out the secret weapon first." Just when Xian Lei was about to be caught in despair, Hui suddenly said thoughtfully. His words made Xian Lei stunned. If the secret weapon is taken out from the core of this space, it will cause the space to collapse, right? Then everyone will be gathered together, right? Hui thought of something and showed a faint smile. If so, then take out the secret weapon. Of course, you don't have to rush to run. I may need your help later. If you fight well, I will consider letting you go this time. How about it? Xing Lv and Xian Lei were both stunned. They looked at each other across the space, and a series of question marks appeared in their heads. What did he mean by fighting well? And a team like yours actually needs help. Wait, they seem to have thought of something. You? Don't tell me you want to deal with those people? I just suddenly thought of it. Hui continued to say with a faint smile, "It's already an established fact that you've caused so much trouble. Even if we can really take the things away without anyone noticing, those people who broke in didn't see anything. What do you think they'll believe? What will they think? They will probably think that someone got here first, and the people from the realm of the gods who came here first will be the first to be suspected. The realm of the gods will still return to chaos." Xing Lv and Xian Lei were silent. Hui casually paced around. "If so, why don't we take this as an opportunity? This is what I just thought. Chaos is inevitable. Why don't we make use of it? That, Lord Guardian, may I ask what you want to do?" Xing Lv raised his hand to show that he had a question. "Unifying the forces of the Order faction in the Void. This is a plan that has been in place for a long time." Hui saw Xing Lv's shocked expression and guessed that he might have thought wrong. He shook his head. "It is not to rule the void. It is just to unite a force to fight against the upcoming disaster." "Disaster?" Xing Lv was confused. "I say, you haven't left the realm of the gods for a few eras, have you?" Xing Lv nodded dumbly. "Hui. Well, that is another matter. I will tell you when I have time. Now, Xian Lei, take the secret weapon." The charming woman from the northern underworld celestial realm had been listening at the side. Her expression became a little strange. He had this plan before they came here. He just looked like he was thinking. After a while, she understood. It turned out that this guy wanted to trick these two culprits to the point where they had no choice but to be his henchmen. She saw the expressions of the people around her and knew that they must have known long ago. They were just watching their boss trick others. Xian Lei listened to the conversation on the other side. However, he was so focused that he couldn't hear clearly. Especially when he saw Xing Lv's surprised expression, he couldn't help but frown. He wanted to go closer to listen out of curiosity. Pop! Suddenly, there was a sound like a radish being pulled out. Xian Lei was stunned. He quickly came back to his senses and saw that the energy threads around the purple crystal were all broken. Boom! The moment the energy threads broke, the space that was already on the verge of collapse suddenly shook violently as if heaven and earth had been turned upside down. Cracks that penetrated the line of sight appeared randomly in the space. This huge movement shocked everyone. Hui glanced at it instantly. When he saw Xian Lei's tearful expression, his cheeks twitched. He waved his hand to open the star crown barrier. This space was suddenly occupied by black cracks. Then, with a bang, it exploded. At the moment when the space exploded, the feeling of being on the ground disappeared. Hui and the others kept their bodies floating. The sea of energy, the whirlpool, and the long bridge all disappeared. What came into view was a huge and boundless storm cloud. They were still in the storm layer of the tribulation cloud. Not far away they could still see the light purple beam. This passage hadn't disappeared yet. Looking at this slightly familiar scene, Hui turned his gaze to Xian Lei, who was holding the crystal and floating in the same place. Xian Lei was stared at by Hui and turned his head away awkwardly. This is an accident, really. Chapter 1354. No one knew exactly how thick the tribulation clouds were. Looking up, it was difficult to see beyond the range of the storm clouds. The lavender light beam still went straight to the bottom of the tribulation clouds. During the time Hui and the others were in, the tribulation clouds seemed to have expanded by dozens of times. This space had also stabilized, and there were no more thunder and lightning in this place. The surrounding tribulation clouds were still shining with terrifying energy, but because the space had expanded, it was not so easy to touch that side. Those scenes had completely disappeared, and at this moment, only this tribulation cloud storm was left in this space. This place is really good as a battlefield. Hui sized up the space and could not help but laugh out loud. He waved at everyone. I Ching and the others immediately understood what he meant. Orders were quickly transmitted through their souls. Then, the huge cross-shaped star formation appeared again. As the formation was reassembled, the energy towers also appeared from the void. They were like energy nodes that landed in the formation. On the other side, the communication between Xian Lei and Xing Lu had just finished. Xian Lei held the crystal and floated in front of Hui, looking him up and down for a while. Then, he reluctantly handed over the secret artifact. Here it's for you. Although I had expected that the efforts of several eras would be wasted, I did not expect it to be so fast. Hui was stunned for 2 seconds and waved his hand. No, didn't I say that I am not interested in this thing? If you had not caused such a big commotion, we would not have come to clean up the mess. You keep it first. He saw Xian Lei's helpless smile, and felt a little curious. Is there a problem? Xian Lei nodded. The secret artifact is now only revealed in the space of the present world. The real legendary item is in the secret artifact, but it has not yet materialized. It is still slowly taking shape, so the secret artifact has not been opened yet. And in this process, I just tried it and there is no way to put it into any space. Hui let out a long "oh." Before he could speak, Lady Green said first, "So you intend to give it to Lord Hui and let him help you attract hatred, right?" Xian Lei turned his head awkwardly. "We can't handle an army of hundreds of billions and thousands of trillions. Then, we can only hand it to a team that can handle it. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have opened this thing." I Ching could not help but let out a long sigh. As long as Xing Lu and Xian Lei were activated, they would attract endless attention. In the chaotic situation of the void, It was impossible to take them away safely no matter what. The only way was to hand them over to a sufficiently powerful force. They could not just hand them over to the guests from the outer realm. Based on the current situation, they could only hand them over to Lord Hui. I went around in a circle and tied a dead knot. Xing Lv couldn't help but laugh bitterly after he figured out the problem. He scratched his head in embarrassment. All right, we were too rash this time. Sorry. We looked at the two of them with a headache and sighed. If I had known this would happen. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Let's just say that I'm interested in this so-called legendary item. This way we won't be entangled, right? Also, don't tell me the two of you are planning to open the other two secret artifacts as well? Seeing Xing Lv and Xian Lei heave a sigh of relief, Hui couldn't help but open his eyes and smile. Xing Lv laughed dryly and turned his head away, pretending not to hear anything. Xian Lei simply pushed the crystal to Hui and then shrank back into the former's body like an ostrich, leaving the matter to him. Behave. The void is troublesome now. Well, we don't object to the people from the realm of the gods doing strange but harmless things. But next time, if you really want to open the secret artifacts, please give us a signal so that we can open the barrier. Don't look at me like that. We just don't want to take the trouble. We'll close the door and you can go in and take it. If you can't take it, it's your own business. Xing Lv laughed dryly and lowered his head to continue playing with his fingers. Just as their conversation came to an end, the space around them suddenly lit up. A huge sea of light appeared, and then figures emerged from the light. There were tens of thousands, hundreds of billions, and they were the people who entered the secret artifact space with them. At this time, they also emerged as the space collapsed. They were constantly panting and their faces were covered in sweat. Hui wrinkled his nose and waved his hand to throw the crystal in his hand to the top of the energy tower behind him, replacing the golden crystal on the top of the tower. He held the golden crystal in his hand and then poured the Guardian's power into it. The light was so dazzling that it was as if a sun was shining. When everyone saw this, they couldn't help but praise. As expected of the Lord Guardian, his reaction was really fast. This countermeasure made them speechless. There were also a few people who looked at it and quickly changed the golden crystal in the energy tower next to them to purple so that it wouldn't look too abrupt. They were suddenly bounced back to the original passage from another space, or even from the depths of the passage. For a while they were a little confused. After constantly looking around for a while, they finally saw Hui and the others floating some distance away from them. They recognized that they were all from the realm of the gods and immediately became vigilant. In their vigilance, they saw the 2 or 3 meters tall energy crystal in Hui's hand. With their eyes, there was no way for them to distinguish what the crystal was. Suddenly, they associated it with this space, and instantly there were more changes in their eyes. Haha, I didn't expect that you guys from the realm of the gods would be so fast. You took out the treasures in the space so quickly. The collapse of the space gave me a shock. In the crowd, the Lord of Void Holy Court took a few steps forward and left the sea of people. A faint smile came from the black fog. I wonder if you guys have any special gains. We would also like to take a look. Well, there's nothing special. Hui looked at the crystal in his hand thoughtfully and said, "It's just an amalgamation of some of the realm of the gods' law fragments. There are some special records about the things of the previous era and the current power of the realm of the gods' law and so on." After saying that, he raised the crystal in his hand and threw it up as if he didn't care. He caught it again. See, I already said that the last thing we see might not be anything special. You guys have these things in your own world. It's just a small piece of the realm of the gods' law fragment. What a waste of time. Let's go, let's go. Hui yawned lazily and let go of the energy crystal to float 1.5 meters away from him as if he didn't care. Then, he led the others slowly down the passage of the tribulation clouds below. Wait. The young man from the Demon Gods League suddenly stood up and a smile appeared on his young face. Since it's useless, why don't you let us deal with it? What use do you have for something that involves the origin of the realm of the gods' law? Hui waved his hand casually. First, this thing can't be absorbed and refined. Second, it can't be used to strengthen the power of the realm of the gods' law. No matter what, it's a worthless thing. But it's still something from the realm of the gods, and it contains some secret. How can we give it to you? What a load of nonsense! The young man from the Gold Firmament clan sneered. You guys found it first, so you got it first. It's up to you. Don't think that you can fool us with such a cheap excuse. Everyone from the god realm looked at each other in dismay. Then, they collectively sighed and said in unison, "Ah, a lost youth. If you don't believe us, we can't do anything about it. Lord Hui, it's just trash anyway. Rather than bringing it back and burying it, why don't we just get rid of it here?" I Ching sighed and whispered into Lord Hui's ear. Although he whispered into Lord Hui's ear, everyone could hear him. Hui thought about it and felt that it was reasonable. He took the golden crystal and looked up at the young man from the Gold Firmament clan. "Hey you. That's right. Take it." Everyone was dumbfounded, and the young man from the Gold Firmament clan frowned. When Hui finished speaking, he felt a golden light flash in front of him. He was stunned for a moment and quickly reached out to take the crystal. As soon as he touched it, he felt an unimaginably large amount of energy with the power of the realm of the gods' law. He quickly let go of the crystal and looked at it carefully. It was the golden crystal that was 2 to 3 meters tall. Buzz! While he was in a daze, the golden crystal let out a soft buzzing sound. The powerful power of the realm of the gods' law and the power of the realm of the gods gushed out like a long river. Countless strange phenomena appeared in the surroundings, and some gray blurry images appeared. An ancient aura that had settled down for countless years suddenly appeared. Everyone was shocked, and many people cried out in surprise. "You're just a country bumpkin. Haven't you seen the manifestation of energy before?" Lady Green shook her head and clicked her tongue. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something and said to Hui, "Lord Hui, that is an item from the realm of the gods. If it falls into the hands of people from other realms, they might be able to tinker with it. At most, they might be able to replicate the power of the realm of the gods' law. It's not authentic anyway, so let them be. It has nothing to do with us. Let's go, let's go." After so much trouble, it turned out to be a useless thing. What a waste of time. The whispers of the two were so loud that everyone present could hear them. At that moment, the expressions of those who were still crying out in surprise changed. Could it really be a useless thing? They wanted to get a more accurate answer, but they did not dare to block Hui and the others' path alone. At that moment, the leaders of the Void Giants were frowning and hesitating. Occasionally, they would look at the golden crystal, and then look at the people from the realm of the gods who were gradually moving away. They were stunned for a moment. No matter what, this is an item from the realm of the gods. The enforcers of the realm of the gods also said that they might be able to replicate the power of the realm of the god. Even if they could only replicate part of it, it would still be several times more powerful than the power of the realm of the god. A voice came from somewhere unknown. After hearing it, everyone could not help but nod. That's right. After coming here from across the void territory, we can't go back empty-handed. However, the young man from the Demon Gods League nodded in agreement. However, his tone suddenly changed as he said to the people from the realm of the gods below, "Everyone from the realm of the gods, since we can't verify the authenticity of this item, why don't we ask you to watch from the side? Once a fight breaks out here, the situation will be very chaotic. Just now, there were some people who had some ideas about this world. I'm worried that your world will be invaded during the chaos." "What? We've given you the item, and you're not letting us go?" "That's a good excuse, but you don't have to worry about it." "What a joke. Hui stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at everyone. He said with a faint smile, "Please understand that this is the realm of the gods. This is our territory. I'm not targeting anyone. I'm saying that everyone here is a turtle in a jar. If I want to kill all of you, it'll only take a few minutes." Boom! Monarch Green and the others shouted. The aura of more than 30,000 heavenly gods of origin burst out together and rumbled. The entire tribulation cloud trembled along with it. Hundreds of billions of people were thrown off their feet. The heavenly god-tier beings were directly pushed back into the tribulation cloud and were drowned in it. There was not even a trace of sound. The leaders of the few giants in the void territory held their breaths for a moment. They were pushed back for a distance before they managed to stabilize themselves in a sorry state. Their faces were as gloomy as the rain. "If you understand, then go and do your own things. You can join forces to stop us. When the time comes, we don't know who will benefit from the crystal." Hui sneered and waved his hand. This time, everyone opened a crack in the void territory and calmly walked into it to leave this space. Hui was the last to leave. Before he left, he turned around and smiled faintly at everyone. "By the way, thank you for helping me throw away the trash. Due to the powerful deterrence of the people from the realm of the gods, no one dared to say a word this time." Their expressions changed several times before they all turned to look at the golden crystal that had fallen into the hands of the Gold Age clan. Many colors appeared in their eyes. Boom! A powerful energy torrent surged out of nowhere and surged toward the young man from the Gold Age clan. Everyone was taken aback by this sudden development. The enormous energy caused the heavenly gods of origin of the Gold Age clan to join forces and form a solid energy barrier. When the energy landed heavily on the barrier, the destructive energy caused an earth-shattering reaction. Everyone in this space saw as if a huge sun had exploded in front of their eyes. They felt as if they were blinded by the light. Several torrents of energy swept out from the center of the energy explosion and sent a large number of people flying. The aftershock of the impact caused a large number of people to fall to the ground. Hundreds of people were slapped into the tribulation cloud and were swallowed by the energy there. Almost no one could walk out of there alive. The few heavenly gods of origin who had formed the barrier were stunned. Logically speaking, the energy barrier that they had formed in a hurry should not have been able to withstand such a huge commotion. The handsome man also felt that something was wrong, but he obviously did not have much time to think at this moment. The Void Court, the Desolate Devil Court, the Godly Destruction Sect, the Demon Gods League, and many other giants quickly approached the Gold Age clan with many experts. Some of them had grim expressions, some of them had undisguised sneers on their faces, and some of them did not even look human. They surrounded the Gold Age clan. Seeing the crowd closing in on them, a sinister look flashed across the handsome man's eyes. He smiled faintly and said, "Why? Do you really plan to attack us? I suspect that the people from the realm of the gods are behind all this. Why don't we prepare ourselves and bring everyone to their door to ask for a specific explanation?" The young man from the Demon Gods League grinned innocently and nodded. "Of course. However, we are also very interested in the crystal that contains the laws of the realm of the god. Why don't we study it together?" The leaders of the giants did not speak directly. However, judging from the glint in their eyes and the surging of energy, it was obvious that they had the same idea. Although we and the others from the realm of the gods treated it as trash, the powerful laws of this world contained in the crystal were much more powerful than the laws in their own origin world. If they could obtain it, they might be able to upgrade their own worlds to a higher level. They might even be able to take a peek at that level. This was a power that only outsiders had. To the people from the realm of the gods, it was indeed something that was dispensable. Another's worthless grass was my treasure. This was how the saying went. In the void, Hui and the others were hiding nearby, closely watching the scene in the tribulation cloud passage. I Ching looked at the dozen or so void giants, who were ready to fight. He could not help but ask Lord Hui, will they really fight? Of course, none of them know each other at the moment. I'm talking to the extent that they can be allies. They might have communicated or had conflicts in the void, but they haven't formed an alliance. Among this group of people, the Void Court has the most combat power. But because of this, if they fight, they will be the first to be targeted. They are still stalling for time, probably communicating in secret. After all, there are more than a dozen parties staring at each other, and none of them have absolute power to control the situation, so it won't be easy for them to fight. Behind them, a bunch of scattered people are also watching in fear. Just now, the guidance didn't cause too much of a ruckus. Otherwise, it would have exploded directly, and there would be no need to wait. Oh look, although it was a few minutes late, didn't it start now? Hearing this, everyone turned their gazes. In the void, in the tribulation cloud passage in the realm of the gods, a huge impact of energy suddenly burst out, scattering the group of people who were besieged. The people of the Gold Ashen clan took the golden crystal and rushed down the passage. Obviously, they did not intend to fight force with force while being watched. Right now, they were planning to gather outside support first. Oh, it was the Void Court that attacked first. Not surprising at all. Although we know that the Gold Ashen clan can't escape, it will take a long time to chase after them. Lord Hui, why don't we do something? Hui shrugged. Jing Yuanji, I will leave it to you. Seal the escape space. Jing Yuanji stroked her light blue hair and nodded with a smile. She pointed at the void in the realm of the gods, and the power of the divine right quietly surged. Then, everyone saw that half of the void in the tribulation cloud passage suddenly froze. The way in front of the Gold Ashen clan was blocked by a distorted void vortex. The hundreds of people were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out of their heads. They hurriedly stopped. A few people did not have time to stop chasing and crashed into the void vortex. Then, a huge energy phenomenon with particles scattered all over the void. Those people were completely dead, and the overflowing energy formed a phenomenon that only appeared when they died. This is not strong enough. Let me do it. Qing Jun grinned grimly. He waved his hand and pinched fiercely at the position of a group of unaffiliated people behind him. A violent power of rules suddenly broke out, shaking those guys who were at a loss at a distance and sent them flying like flies. Many people were even blown into the fighting circle by the energy storm. Suddenly, a group of people who were in a hurry to protect themselves and those who were vigilant against the intruders roared and clashed with each other. That white blood, that red blood, TSK, how tragic! I Ching looked at the battle that broke out in front of him across the void and could not help but smack his lips. It seems that the life forms in other worlds are mostly physical? Not every life form in every world can easily transform into an energy life form, unlike us, who can do it the moment we ascend to the rebirth state. We can choose however we want. Hui stretched his body. Hui stretched lazily. Generally speaking, energy life forms are stronger, especially the pure energy form after removing the restrictions. However, once we enter that form, we will also become a kind of energy. If our spirit and soul are not strong enough, it will not be fun to be restrained by the enemy's means of restricting energy. In order to make up for this small shortcoming, what we usually show is an entity formed by energy. There is no problem in removing the restrictions at will. Unless we are seriously injured, we will not be beaten back to the pure energy form. Jing Yuanji listened and could not help but say, although the energy form is indeed much stronger, I still prefer the physical form. Oh, then you can go and talk to Maple, Hui said. Maple's life form has a physical form in the normal state, and it is the kind that is 100% restored. When he fights, he will use energy to manifest the physical form. Compared to the upper level, he has liberated part of his strength, so you can occasionally see him spitting blood while fighting. Energy life forms do not have this ability. At most, the energy will leak out from the wound. As for the final pure energy form, the one that is completely liberated and berserk, I feel a lingering fear. Let's not talk about it. We watched the group of outsiders fight with interest and told others about his old companions. Everyone could not help but praise him. After a moment of silence, they realized that something was not right. A first stage transformation with a second stage mutation and a third stage berserk. This, you can't afford to provoke a berserk maple. We sighed to everyone. While they were chatting and watching the battle, no one noticed that the nebula-like energy inside the purple crystal suddenly trembled slightly. Then, a small vortex appeared inside and absorbed the energy in the crystal. The movement was like the birth of a star. Chapter 1355. Boom! The opening scene was a violent explosion of energy like a new star. The huge void energy turned into a storm that swept in all directions, swallowing space and time. A huge crater thousands of kilometers wide appeared in the sky, and the area covered by the energy was left with nothing but nothingness. The people who were swallowed by the energy did not even show any signs of death. The void energy erupted without any hindrance. If it was allowed to do as it pleased, the tribulation cloud channel would collapse. When everyone saw this scene, they clearly understood what would happen if the black hole continued to grow. Immediately, countless people who were still fighting mobilized their own energy, causing it to erupt from their bodies like a monstrous wave. The endless energy, along with the destructive power of many laws and powerful divine right, crashed into the black hole. Seeing this scene, some people who were fighting in twos and threes looked at each other and tacitly stopped fighting temporarily. They launched powerful energy attacks at the crazily expanding black hole. Tens of millions of energies converged into an ocean and surged toward the gaping hole in the void. The boundless energy gushed into the black hole like clay oxen entering the sea and died, causing everyone's expression to darken. But a moment later, they saw that after the black hole received all the attacks, its expanding volume suddenly stopped. The destructive suction force also disappeared. The black hole, which was originally invisible like a flat black circle, suddenly arched high up and collapsed on the other side. The color of the black hole rapidly faded, turning into a wriggling ball of mud. Streaks of blue energy patterns appeared on its surface like cracks. The entire ball of mud trembled visibly with the naked eye, then suddenly contracted violently and expanded abruptly. The expansion lasted for a short 5 seconds. At this time, everyone felt a fatal threat. The aura made their scalps tingle, and they hurriedly retreated. Layers of energy barriers covered their bodies, and the ball of mud, which had undergone some kind of transformation, expanded to its limit. Then, with a boom, the void exploded, washing the endless energy into pure void energy. The primordial and powerful energy exploded, tearing the entire space into pieces. It was a pure black light, but it made everyone feel like their eyes were about to be blinded. Those who could not escape in time were once again dragged in by the exploding void energy and disintegrated into nothingness. The Lord of the Void Divine Court appeared in the distance. The black ball on its body surged rapidly, as if it was about to shatter. People could faintly hear a muffled groan from the black ball. It coldly looked at everyone. It did not expect that its attack would attract so many people's attention. A group of scattered people and a few powerful figures worked together to break the attack. Then, it stared at the flustered young man from the Gold Age clan and said in a cold voice, "Why do you still want to resist? You should know that you won't be able to protect that crystal. Why don't you hand it over as soon as possible and leave this place quickly?" Hand it over? The young man from the Gold Age clan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and laughed evilly. Sure. Who should I hand it over to? These days, it's not very useful to sow discord. The young man from the Demon Gods League smiled. You just need to let it go. You can see that you are the first to be attacked. You don't have the power to fight anymore. Is that so? Seems like it, the young man said coldly. He grabbed at the side and the golden crystal floated up beside him. He flipped it up and down a few times. Seeing the undisguised gazes of those people, he said, "You want the law crystal? It's not that easy." He sneered and the space around him suddenly distorted. A golden beam of light swept up the golden crystal and shot into the distance. And the direction it flew towards was actually a place where countless rogue cultivators were gathered. Bastard! An angry shout came from the black ball. Black energy rushed out, causing the space around the golden crystal to darken. The people from the Void Divine Court also released a huge amount of energy at the right time. "Ha ha, you're in such a hurry." Just as the golden crystal was about to be taken away by the Void Divine Court, a faint laugh sounded. Suddenly, a huge beast claw appeared in the space and slapped the crystal away. The space was directly shattered. "Old bastard who's pretending to be young, you're not slow either." The black ball looked at the young man sitting on the huge beast. Its hollow voice was a bit angry. It hurriedly turned around and said to everyone, "Hurry up and do it! In the void domain, even you will be affected by me." The black sphere bellowed out furiously. The energy of the void expanded wildly, about to form a domain that completely enveloped the entire space. However, just as its domain expanded to several times its original size, two powerful bursts of energy swept over from the side, forcefully causing its domain to tremble violently. It almost shattered. The black ball turned around furiously and saw the young man and the young man from the Gold Age clan walk over together. The former sneered, "I don't want it anymore, but I don't want it to end up in your hands either. Speaking of which, we still have a debt to settle." The black ball felt a sliver of pressure from the two-peak reciprocity expert. A hollow, angry laugh rang out from the ball. An abnormal energy appeared in the frozen void domain. It only appeared for a moment, but it caused the turbulent space to darken even more. However, just when the energy was about to surge out, the black ball seemed to suddenly think of something. After a moment of hesitation, it calmed down the void domain and sneered, "Do you really think you can stop me with just the two of you?" As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful energy suddenly erupted from the void domain. The energy that could be said to be the origin of the primordial realm condensed into a storm that swept the two of them in. The figures of the three void giants collided in each other's energy domains, and the energy that erupted blew away all the energy shockwaves within a radius of 10,000 miles. The three peak powers fought fiercely here, and the destructive energy constantly caused the space to explode. The people who were watching from the side all retreated in horror, afraid that they would be affected. The giants of the desolate Devil Court and the others could not help but frown when they saw the three of them fight. Just when they were about to take action, they saw the golden crystal charge into the place they did not want to get involved in the least. They all clenched their fists and forcefully stopped themselves from taking action. They could only watch for now. The crystallization of the laws of the God world. It can make the laws of your world several dozen times stronger. Attack. On the largest and most chaotic battlefield, everyone suddenly felt something. When they turned their heads, they saw that the golden crystal was only a few kilometers away from them. They could touch it with just a stretch of their hands. Immediately, fiery red gazes turned toward it. It could make the laws of their world several dozen times stronger, close to the God world. If they could get their hands on it, they would be able to form a team like that legendary army. The crystallization of laws. That's mine. Suddenly, an even more violent explosion of energy connected together. Everyone exploded with powerful energy to break free from their opponent. Their figures instantly became illusory. In just an instant, thousands of figures reached out their hands toward the crystallization of laws. They were not far away from touching it. Those who were armed to the teeth were even using their teeth at this moment. They saw an old man open his mouth and spit out a torrent of energy that killed a group of people. Even the row of teeth he spat out were like meteorites that knocked several high-level heavenly gods of origin who were close to him, causing them to vomit blood and fly backward. When everyone's eyes turned red from killing, they felt a little ashamed. In such a crazy confrontation, it was as if the entire world was violently erupting with energy. Divinity domains could not be opened at all. Once someone tried to open a divinity domain to control a part of the world, they would be shattered alive by the countless energy explosions. It would shatter before it could even take shape. When the divinity domain shattered, that heavenly god could only retreat with heavy injuries. Therefore, in the battle before them, they could only rely on their own energy and laws. Because there were too many people, a group of heavenly gods and experts above heavenly gods could not use many of their technique. When they fought in a chaotic battle, the battle formation was similar to that of a primary god. Ha! It's mine. A young man with 6 bony wings on his back passed through the many energy explosions at an unbelievable speed. When everyone was surprised, he hugged the golden crystal in his arms. He looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. His bony wings flapped lightly, leaving behind tens of thousands of shadows that flew in all directions. His real body was hidden in one of the shadows. However, just when he thought that he could escape with his life, nearly 100,000 destructive energy laws suddenly erupted in the space where his real body was. That space annihilated his entire body in the void. The golden crystal was also shaken by the huge energy and flew into the distance. Not long after, it fell into the hands of another person. This scene repeated endlessly. Oh, how brutal, how chaotic! In the bottom layer of the void, Qing Jun and the others could not help but smack their lips when they saw the scene of huge destructive impacts erupting from time to time. They were not afraid of anyone there, but when everyone's eyes fell on them, TSK, this was probably the scene. They felt a little overwhelmed. If we really have to fight with all our strength, I will take the lead and use the creation domain to connect all of our spiritual and soul forces together to build a huge divinity domain to cover the whole place. The odds of winning will be more than 60%. Hui spread out his hand next to him. But looking at it this way, a direct confrontation is really exciting. Even if we don't use the creation domain, we can still hold on for a long time by just relying on our combined strength. We can take advantage of the gaps between their outbursts and use the energy towers to clean up all life without any worries. After 30,000 rounds, our odds of winning will still increase greatly, but that's just cleaning up. The so-called extinction is not the ending I want to see now. I still have some use for these guys. I Ching looked at Qing Jun, who was secretly drinking there, and could not help but swallow his saliva. He poked the latter with his elbow and pestered him under Qing Jun's helpless gaze. After a while, he grabbed a jar of wine and poured it into his mouth. He let out a long sigh of relief. What if Lord Feng can participate in the battle? Oh, then we just need to provide support. Hui spread his hand to the side and Qing Jun gave him a jar of wine. He took a sip and said happily, "You probably haven't fought side by side with Lord Feng yet. Let me just say this, you don't have to think about cooperating with him to fight or something. That will only kill you. If we want to fight with Lord Feng, it's fine to provide support or help him block the extra people." I Ching recalled the only 1 or 2 scenes that he had seen Lord Feng fight so far and suddenly felt that there was nothing wrong with Hui's words. Qing Jun took a sip of wine. "Lord Hui, are we still not going to play? It feels boring to sit here and watch." Glancing at Qing Jun, whose face was slightly red, Hui couldn't help but say, "I Ching, sober him up. We can indeed play now. We didn't actually have to leave at the beginning, but for the sake of convenience, we were too lazy to waste too much energy and there were risks. From the time we left until now, the energy that erupted in the Tribulation Cloud Passage has been enough to destroy 100 million worlds. If this space had not been covered by the Tribulation Clouds and was stable enough, I'm afraid it would have collapsed. Huey's eyes swept across the field. After the infinite energy burst, there were still many energy aftershocks left in place. The remaining energy solidified and remained in the space, turning into energy clusters that were blown around by the energy storm. At any time, they would pour into some of the explosive energy, making the explosion even more violent. Well, there will be a time to play. Let's wait patiently for a while. By the way, remember what I said just now. Later, according to the assigned team, suppress those big guys. Don't be lenient, just don't kill them. Understood. The purple crystal behind him, the cluster of nebula had completely turned into a vortex that constantly rotated around a cluster of blazing energy. A lot of energy emerged from the edge of the crystal and collapsed toward the inside. The energy of the crystal was constantly flickering, but it was not eye-catching. We and the others were all focused on the tribulation cloud passage and did not pay attention to the crystal left on the energy tower. I Ching let out a burp that reeked of alcohol and lay on his back in the void. It was only when he stretched that he saw a purple light flickering in the corner of his eyes. He raised his eyes and saw the crystal trembling. He couldn't help but be stunned. Lord Hui, that crystal, Hui turned his head and saw that it was trembling restlessly. His eyes widened slightly, and then he frowned. Well, I haven't come into contact with this thing. I don't know what it means. Xing LV, do you know what's going on? Xing LV was stunned and quickly shook his head. I don't know. We only learned about this secret artifact from some words and records of the previous era. But we really don't know what it is. I was just shocked by the horrifying conditions to open it, so I was very interested and used a few eras of effort. As he said this, he kept asking Xian Lei in his mind. Unfortunately, the latter did not know more. It only knew these things and knew how to open the secret artifact after entering this space. It did not know how to take out the secret artifact from the beginning. It was probably because it was a part of the key fragment. Well, if only Feng was here. He should know what I don't know. We looked at the crystal and felt that it had changed, but he could not identify it clearly. He could not help but sigh. Where is Lord Feng? I don't know. There's no movement, but I can feel that his condition is getting better. He seems to be recovering very quickly in this space. He should be able to come in the middle of our plan. This is a rare situation where you can see him in action. You're in for a treat. Everyone was a little fascinated by Lord Huey's sinister smile. Lord Feng's strength had always been a mystery. It was not difficult to know from the words of their own Lord Protector that he was an extreme, violent and crazy violent maniac, and his combat strength should be much higher than his own. Although I Ching had seen a little of it, it was only the tip of the iceberg. It was difficult to see the truth, so when Lord Hui said that, he could not help but feel a little hopeful. Lord Hui, let's deal with that crystal. I keep feeling that it's not quite right. Hui looked at the purple crystal that suddenly flashed faster and felt a little uneasy. He was silent for a moment and said as he reached out his hand, I'm not too sure how to deal with this kind of standard creation. Well, let's just casually deal with it first. Before he could finish his sentence, his eyes suddenly widened, and he shouted almost subconsciously, Get down quickly! Open your defenses! Half of the people were highly concentrated and half relaxed. They gathered together almost as soon as they heard Huey's surprised voice. Before they could react, they had already subconsciously opened their defenses. The group of people propped up a huge combined barrier. The light of the purple crystal suddenly dimmed, and a few seconds later, it became bright again, but this time, it was brighter than any previous flicker. It was like a constantly expanding star that did not stop brightening. In just 5 seconds, it became as dazzling as a purple sun. Everyone was slightly surprised. Under Huey's command, they aimed their energy at the crystal. Alert, bang! Just as he was on guard, the crystal suddenly flew up from the deck of the energy tower. With a bang, it shattered the space beside it and charged out of the space at the bottom of the void. In a flash, it appeared in the tribulation cloud passageway. Oh my God! Hui was so shocked that he almost swallowed his tongue. How did that damn thing run into there? Lord Hui, what should we do now? Green sobered up at once and quickly jumped up to look at the space in the real world. What do you mean, what should we do? Lead the troops and kill our way in. That thing can't fall into the hands of those bastards. Hui waved his hand ferociously. Hearing his ferocious aura, everyone roared, and their auras surged up layer by layer. When a huge passage was opened in the void, we took a look and found that the purple crystal was flying toward the place with a lot of residual energy. There were even a few times when it was close to the edge of the tribulation cloud storm. It was seizing energy, and seizing an unusually large amount of energy. What is that thing doing? Hui frowned. When he couldn't figure it out, he was too lazy to think about those things. With a wave of his hand, he led everyone into the passage. Although it was a little earlier than planned, there was no other way. He was worried that the purple crystal would go out of control. The energy contained in it was enough to blow up half of the realm of the god. He didn't dare to put such a dangerous bomb in a chaotic battlefield. The purple crystal that was like the sun rampaged through the tribulation cloud passage to plunder energy. The red-eyed people didn't react for a while, and the huge energy light around them was much more conspicuous than its light, so no one discovered it in a short 2 minutes. And the first person to see the unknown purple crystal was the 7 feet tall skinny old man from the desolate Devil Divine Court. At that time, he wanted to dodge because he felt a huge energy reaction, but when he turned around, he saw the crystal that contained a huge amount of energy rushing past them. For a moment, he felt a little suspicious. He didn't know why, but his intuition told him that this purple crystal was more important than the golden crystal. Under the influence of this strange thought, the skinny old man saw that no one had reacted, so he waved his hand and led everyone to quietly disappear from the battlefield, and came to the side of the purple crystal without anyone noticing. Buzz buzz. That purple crystal was still wantonly plundering the energy in the space. It didn't feel that someone was watching it, and it didn't treat it as a big deal. Its energy absorption speed was very fast. With a flash of purple light, it absorbed the energy equivalent to that of a high-level heavenly god. After that, it disappeared from where it was in a flash. The skinny old man who had just appeared from the space immediately pounced on empty air. Chase, be careful. Don't attract the attention of others too quickly. The skinny old man frowned, said a sentence, and continued to disappear. In order to not attract attention, the dozen or so people who followed him also disappeared into the space. The group of people jumped quickly in the space, and in a few flashes, they came in front of the purple crystal again. This time, the absorption speed of the purple crystal wasn't as fast. Seeing this, the skinny old man directly broke through the air from the overlapping space. His big hand suddenly reached out, sealing off all the escape routes of the purple crystal, and that space suddenly collapsed and solidified. Purring! The purple crystal was stunned. It hurriedly gave up on that delicious ball of energy, and exploded with a powerful energy. In an instant, it broke through the space sealed by the skinny old man. With a flash of purple light, it disappeared from where it was and appeared in another area of energy, greedily absorbing all the energy. Moreover, the commotion it caused this time was not small, and it was about to attract the attention of others. This thing, what a powerful energy! The skinny old man's expression froze. He gritted his teeth, and just as he was about to continue chasing, his body suddenly stopped. His eyes turned serious, and he looked to the side. He felt a huge amount of condensed energy coming towards them. Hee, the game time is over, everyone of the desolate Devil Court. A voice sounded in their ears. The people in the dark also knew that they had been discovered, so they didn't hide anymore. The heavenly gods of origin from the god world came out together. A dozen people who were close to the peak of the origin walked out with smiles, and behind them were hundreds of mid-level and high-level heavenly gods of origin. This energy completely suppressed the skinny old man and the others. The same scene happened one after another in other places. In front of the people of the Demon Gods League, the people of the godly sect of perdition were also surrounded. As for the young man of the Gold Firmament clan and the master of the Void Holy Court, they were surrounded by 5 peak heavenly gods of origin, a dozen high-level heavenly gods of origin, and hundreds of heavenly gods of origin. The strong people of the god world entered the battlefield in the most unyielding manner, and the destructive energy that occupied half of the space was extinguished immediately. When the Void Giants saw the people of the god world appear on the battlefield again, they stopped them in the most unyielding manner. The combined energy around them made their hearts palpitate. They didn't know what the people of the god world wanted to do. "Looks like you people of the god world came prepared." The skinny old man looked at this scene, and his expression couldn't help but turn ugly. He looked at the purple crystal again. "And you fooled everyone. Well, the golden crystal you're chasing after does contain many fragments of the laws of the god world. It can't be considered fooling. After all, you were chasing it with all your might, weren't you?" The person standing in front of him said with a smile, and his hands were in his sleeves. He looked very relaxed. "Then, everyone, listen carefully." The people of the god world spoke in unison. "From the perspective of righteousness, because we're all from the same lawful faction, we're giving you outsiders who have invaded the god world 2 choices. The only 2 choices are in front of you." The group of people said 2 or 3 sets of lines, and the overlapping voices echoed in everyone's ears. The passage of the clouds fell completely silent. No one dared to act rashly. "We sincerely invite you to put aside your disputes and maintain the power of the lawful faction. Save your strength and fight against the enemy together." Or, everyone laughed in unison. They sneered and mocked and said in unison, "We'll kill you all here." Chapter 1356. Inconceivable. That was the feeling of everyone present. They could not understand what the people of the celestial realm were talking about. But even if they could not hear it clearly, it did not stop them from trembling because of the last sentence. That naked threat, that monstrous murderous aura, and that murderous aura that could destroy the balance of life. Only the heavens knew how many lives these people had destroyed to be able to condense such a heavy and maddening aura. What they said was absolutely true. Whether it was the righteousness that they could not understand or the slaughter to the last, they were all serious. Today, those who opposed them would not be able to leave the celestial realm. Although slaughter to the last is just a threat, we walked slowly as he walked. We walked slowly in the calamity cloud passage towards the innocent amethyst, who had no idea what was going on. Wu Wang, Wu Wei, Wu Nian. All the powers in the Order faction have been united into one. The prerequisite is that we have to eliminate those who can't achieve greatness. Is this what it means? Is this what Maple wants to do? No, not only that, it's just that I don't fully understand it. But that's the general idea. The focus of our lobbying is gradually shifting from the middle realm to the upper realm. It's time to spread out from the celestial realm. I wonder how things are over at the Saint Spirit realm and the Changyuan realm. Although it would be good to conquer one world after another, I don't know how much time we have left to slowly implement it. Roughly unifying the entire void and forcefully twisting it into a battlefront is the best we can do for now. I hope we can make it in time. We turned back to look at the passage of the tribulation clouds that had completely quieted down. He took in the restless emotions of the people. There were calculating eyes, panicked eyes, uneasy eyes, fearful eyes, and even more confused eyes. Many of the beings that appeared here today did not understand what was going on or what their intentions were. It had been 70 or 80 years since the time of the timeline's resonance. Many of them still could not figure it out. They were busy spreading their lives for what they saw in front of them, conquering the void and becoming stronger. To put it bluntly, those who were forcibly moved from other timelines to this place, or were originally here, had mostly become robbers and robbers after the timeline's resonance. However, there was nothing wrong with that. The law of the jungle and some of the instincts of life were vividly displayed here. However, that was not enough for the beings of order to overcome this obstacle. They had to make a choice. Whether to continue doing what they were doing or to mindlessly throw themselves into the void and order's righteousness. They could not understand these things. Phew! Hui let out a long sigh. After a moment, he turned his head and walked towards the purple crystal that was less than 100 meters away from him. He took a few steps and stopped in front of it. The distance between the two was less than 10 meters. He looked at the crystal and saw that it was still greedily absorbing the remaining energy in the place, as if it was holding a feast. Perhaps because he carried a lot of the aura of the realm of the gods, the purple crystal did not know that he had come. Perhaps because the aura of the two was similar, it was difficult to distinguish between the two. Or perhaps because Hui did not come with any hostility. Looking at it circling around and absorbing a lot of energy, Hui finally could not help but reach out his hand and poke it gently. "Hey, what are you doing?" Amethyst was startled by this sudden poke. She was so startled that her entire being, the entire crystal, jumped up and scurried around like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. Seeing this, he could not help but be stunned. Just as he was about to chase after it, it suddenly stopped in midair. The blazing vortex inside once again became extremely bright, and even the entire crystal became extremely dazzling. A wave of energy, unknown whether it had been suppressed for too long or if it could not withstand it, was suddenly released from the center of the crystal. Huey's eyes twitched. An extremely dangerous feeling spread out from his heart. He did not even have time to think about it. He hurriedly shouted to everyone, "Quick, dodge! Defend with all your strength!" In this deathly silent scene, a sudden roar rang out, causing everyone's tensed nerves to jump again. The highly concentrated minds made everyone not pay attention to who the voice was. They subconsciously put up an energy barrier and retreated quickly. At this moment, the warriors of the realm of the gods also came back to their senses and quickly put up a huge defensive barrier. Then, boom! An indescribable violent energy suddenly came from above. The extremely dazzling light made everyone feel as if they were facing a falling star. The vast energy new star was accompanied by a destructive roar that could split heaven and earth. A torrent of energy that was enough to illuminate the thick tribulation clouds burst out. Countless bursts of energy were released thousands of times per second. Thousands of times fused into one shock wave that swept wildly in all directions at the speed of light. Hui, who was closest to it, only had time to let out a wah before he was blown away by the violent energy and disappeared. The hundreds of billions of lives gathered here, under Huey's hasty reminder, only had time to use their instinctive defense. The defense strength was not too high. The moment the shock wave burst out, nearly 30% of the defense barrier shattered. The rest, whether the defense was broken or not, were blown away by the shock wave. They were like broken ribs that were thrown into a pile and rolled out like a ball. The light purple pillar of light in the passageway flickered a few times, as if its energy was about to be exhausted. As the light pillar at the core of the passageway flickered, the huge tribulation cloud in the surroundings also had a huge movement. The thick tribulation cloud that was originally resting in a corner suddenly rumbled with the sound of rolling thunder. The movement of the tribulation cloud surged violently, causing the entire space to become violent. The energy new star and the energy flash that could split heaven and earth passed in an instant. When they saw each other again, the energy phenomenon had already ended. Everyone who had been thrown off their feet suppressed the dizziness and slowly climbed to their feet, or just so happened to have not fainted. A considerable portion of those whose barriers had shattered at first had already been reduced to dust. Apart from the Empyrean god, there were not many who were in particularly good condition. It was also thanks to that energy new star that the void giants who had been separately trapped broke free during the chaos and gathered with their own teams. The divine warriors had no choice but to gather after some thought. They too felt helpless about the sudden scene. They had clearly been holding down the criminal and preparing to be executed, and now that the criminal had slipped away, they would have to capture him again later. What a headache! Hui appeared at the front of the team and patted his robe, that had become a little tattered due to the energy new star. The plan is all messed up. Well, it's not just that. Because of the declaration just now, the tourists are now generally emotionally unstable. Look at their little eyes. With so many eyes, if there's no accident, they should be trying to escape now. Qing Jun looked up into the distance. Being stared at by nearly 100 billion gazes, his eyebrows could not help but twitch, especially when more than 70% of the gazes were absolutely hostile. It was only now that Hui noticed that the energy barrier that Qing Jun, I Ching and the others had put up during the energy new star was too large, even helping some of them to absorb a lot of the energy impact. They were pushed far away by the huge energy blast, and just happened to be below the tribulation cloud passageway, the place where the pass was guarded. To be fair, it was just a coincidence, but it had a different meaning in the eyes of so many panicked people. Combined with the declaration just now, especially the last sentence of the declaration, we could now imagine what they were thinking. These divine fellows might have shed all pretense of cordiality and wanted to keep them here. Forget it, who cares what they think? Hui put one hand on his waist and muttered angrily, "Our purpose has never changed, and our ideas will not change. The only thing that has changed is the means of doing things. Since the shortcut has been smashed by a stone, let's use the most direct means." He did not suppress his words in the slightest, so that everyone in the passageway could hear him. When the already mentally unstable people heard this, their expressions changed even more. Then, they saw the law enforcer of the divine realm take out a long sword that looked like a divine light of salvation and pointed at them. The divine power actually carried a monstrous murderous aura, which made them turn pale. Either you surrender or stay here. The master of the void divine court stared at the formation in the distance. Looking at the 30,000 Empyrean gods of origin, he felt a great headache. With this kind of formation, even if he drained all of the combat power of the void divine court and raised everyone's strength out of thin air, he still would not be able to defeat them. Now, the people of the divine realm seemed to have some righteous goal and did not casually kill them all. It was easy to get out alive, but also very difficult. They just had to surrender. However, these people had been roaming the void for so many years, and were indomitable powerhouses in their own world. They were the leader, one, so how could they be content to submit to others? Everyone, no matter what happened before, no matter what grudges you have, I'm afraid we have to work together if we want to get out alive this time. A voice came from the black sphere. Its gaze fell on the tender young man, the skinny old man, and the others. These people were the top forces outside of the divine realm. If they were unwilling to work together and fight separately, the outcome today would be unimaginable. And the rest of you? After it finished speaking, it turned its gaze to the many scattered people behind it. You've seen what happened before. The divine realm is aggressive and wants to kill us all in one fell swoop. We don't have enough strength. If we want to get out of here alive, we have to work together. Otherwise, we won't be a match for them. Of course, they have another way out. If you don't want to die, surrender now is also a way out. The young man of the Gold Firmament clan pondered for a long time. Then, he coldly glared at the black sphere. That seems to be the case. Although working together with you gives me goosebumps, it seems like it's possible now. We'll settle our scores after we get out of here." Seeing him nod, the tender young man looked at the skinny old man and the others. The latter didn't say anything. They just took a step forward. The energy in their bodies surged. It seemed like they were going to use their actions to speak. Seeing that the Void Tycoons had made their stand, the scattered people behind them looked at each other crazily. The small groups of scattered people all looked at their own captains. Their gazes attracted the attention of many lone wanderers. They all looked at them, making the captains of the small groups feel miserable. However, in the face of such pressure, they didn't have any better ideas. If they didn't want to surrender, then they had to fight. Thinking of this, tens of thousands of people similar to captains walked out. They looked at each other, then looked at the Lord of Void Court and the others in front of them. They nodded. "If that's the case, we're also willing to help." The cooperation this time was no longer for the sake of obtaining anything. The golden and purple crystals had been forgotten by the greater pressure in front of them. The most important thing now was to defeat the people from the realm of the gods. If they didn't get rid of them, no one would be able to leave this place, let alone take anything out of this place. Seeing that the scene was divided into two distinct sides, the atmosphere was tense and ready to break out at any moment. Xing Lv couldn't help but laugh bitterly. He took 2 steps forward and said to Green, "I really didn't expect there to be such trouble. The trouble you've caused is really not small. Can be ranked in the top 10 of all the trouble I've seen in my life." Green nodded and said bluntly. Xing Lv laughed bitterly. "Well, you reap what you sow. Is there anything you can help with? Well, your energy is a little special. Just provide energy for the energy towers." Green pondered for a moment. "Our battle isn't so primitive and crude. In a situation like this where the great world is clashing head-on, we usually fight a positional battle around the energy towers. It's just that we don't even have a positional battle here. We can only improvise. In the end," he added in his heart, "it's just not as refreshing as rushing up alone and punching the flesh. We've seen this kind of battle formation countless times. Those worlds that were turned into ashes under the iron hooves of the realm of the gods, their final resistance was just as resolute as yours." Hui smiled faintly. His smile was still as bright as the sun. He waved his hand, and the star corona barrier shrouded their cross-shaped starlight. The powerful energy barrier leaped with complex and terrifying energy, causing people who saw it to have no other thoughts other than their scalp tingling. This is the first time that the realm of the gods isn't cleaning up trash, punishing people, or anything else. Instead, they are fighting for war. For the void, for the order faction, for the future. Today you must submit to us. As the light shout fell from his mouth, the warriors of the realm of the gods suddenly burst out with energy. The energy towers that had been ready for a long time gathered all the energy in the energy crystals. A light flashed, and thousands of huge torrents of destructive energy that were thousands of miles long suddenly shot out outside the star corona barrier, covering the entire space. The moment they met, it was a saturated bombardment. Seeing this, the faces of the Lord of the Void Court and the others changed dramatically. "Attack together! Fight it out with them!" A shout came from the Black Ball. Everyone in Empty Space Court screamed at the same time. Empty space energy flooded out of empty space. It turned into pure, colorless energy that rushed forward. When the others saw this, they unleashed their best attacks. Thousands of different types of energy combined with the empty space quartz, 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 empty space quartz attack. Those who did not have any long-range attack methods took out their various weapons, one after another. They made a last-minute effort to activate their energy to launch long-range attacks. They swept across the entire battlefield like raindrops falling. In this violent environment, if there were raindrops, it meant that there would soon be a torrential downpour. The energy attacks of billions of lives fell like billions of raindrops, connecting into a curtain of energy. This formation made everyone who launched the joint attack feel a chill in their teeth. They kept measuring themselves. Under such circumstances, the ones who were besieged were not the people of the realm of the gods, but themselves. Then what would happen to them? Boom! 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 The violent explosion of energy interrupted everyone's thoughts. The energy that exploded in the space was like dazzling fireworks in the starry sky. The energy storm that swept out was mixed with a huge amount of void energy that constantly stimulated the evolution of all things. That energy seemed to be able to devour everything. Just a moment ago, everyone was still on guard against this energy. Now, it had become a powerful card to deal with the people of the divine realm. The exploding energy fireworks occupied their entire line of sight. As far as their eyes could see, they could only feel the monstrous explosion of energy and the surging aftermath of the destructive energy. The raging energy storm, catalyzed by the void energy, seemed to have the intention of continuously expanding, causing everyone's hearts to beat wildly. Not good. Quick, defend. The black ball suddenly sensed something and let out a hurried cry. Everyone was shocked and only had time to subconsciously release their energy defenses. The next moment, the energy storm in front of them was suddenly torn apart from the middle in the most violent manner. The two halves suddenly disappeared, turning into an endless amount of energy that gradually withered away. What tore apart the energy storm that was like a great wall in the starry sky was a large energy torrent that violently swept over. The enormous danger that erupted from within caused everyone to feel fear and trepidation. The energy torrent that could cover an entire area headed straight for the black ball, the tender youth, the skinny old man, and the others. Oh, it included them as it whizzed towards everyone. It could be considered an attack that was almost indiscriminate, because everyone was included in the attack range. In the face of such a huge attack, the defense that they hastily condensed seemed too weak. Boom! There was another round of violent energy explosion. The explosive energy was like a fiery meteor that rapidly streaked across the atmosphere and was instantly destroyed. From the center of the explosion, there were tens of millions of gorgeous energy waves that spread out in all directions. It was very beautiful, but under that beauty, there was an endless amount of destructive energy. The violent energy only lasted for a dozen seconds before it was suppressed with the movement of energy compression. The gorgeous energy fireworks suddenly disappeared, and the traces of a large number of lives were revealed in that space. Even though they had survived such an attack, it was only the result of piling up numbers. The tender youth, the skinny old man, and the others bore the brunt of the attack. Even more than half of their clothes were destroyed, and there were bloody wounds on their bodies. The black ball had become much smaller, and gradually, a blurry figure appeared. It looked like a large black cocoon, revealing a short 10 centimeters of feet and hands. Even at this critical moment, seeing the Lord of the Void Court like this, some people's bodies stiffened. They were all holding back their laughter. He made it? Not easy. But that was just a warning. It can't even be considered an official attack. Hui raised his eyebrows slightly in surprise. He waved his hand, and thousands of energy towers were charged again. If it weren't for the fact that all of you are on the side of order, you would have already reported to the underworld. What I said just now still counts. Surrender to us, and let all of you see the truth of this world, or... He chuckled and did not say anything. He just shook his head faintly. In the eyes of everyone, that gesture was not that simple. Everyone felt a chill run up their spines to their brains. Hurry up and do it. Don't let them launch a second attack. The leader of Void Court didn't care about how funny he looked right now. He waved his hand, and a ball of extremely condensed void energy shot out of the void territory. It condensed into a ball of condensed void energy that was tens of thousands of feet long. "Everyone, give me a hand." Disturbed by the colorless light in the void, everyone quickly came back to their senses. Immediately, a large number of powerful people leaped into the air. All kinds of strange energies and moves, which we and the others had never seen before, were displayed in front of their eyes at this moment. The storm of tribulation clouds became even more violent under the mighty attack that covered the sky. We and the others could not help but praise when they saw the dense energy that was like a sea that covered the sky. In the face of such a terrifying battle, we and the others were not in a hurry. They just let the energy light that the star corona barrier gathered a little stronger. The energy towers were still gathering energy at a moderate pace. Even the energy in the tribulation clouds was absorbed by their energy towers. A wave of condensed energy rippled in the space and spread out. Just the aftermath of the condensed energy caused the space to shake and split into a few thousand miles long spatial abyss. Seeing that the enemy was not in a hurry, the Lord of the Void Court was furious. However, in addition to being violent, he also felt a little strange. Especially when he caught a glimpse of Huey's smile, that strange feeling climbed to the peak. However, at this moment, all the powerful people attacked together and displayed their special skills. There was also someone who plundered the energy in the tribulation clouds and smashed it into the mass of void energy. At this moment, the special energy that came from the realm of the gods made the mass of void energy extremely terrifying. Even the Lord of the Void could not control it. "Bastard! I don't care anymore. Go to hell." The black ball roared angrily. The mass of void energy exploded with a void impact under its release. Then, the back half of the mass of energy opened into a whirlpool that covered the sky and the sun. The mass of energy condensed from the attacks of hundreds of billions of lives and turned into a huge cannonball that shot forward. The energy that came from hundreds of thousands of worlds tumbled inside, repelling and fusing with each other, creating an even more violent and crazy energy. Through the surface of the void, one could see the colorful surging energy. It was like a restless star. Just the power that it revealed caused a huge crack in the space it passed through. Even the people who launched the attack had never seen such a movement in their lives. Under the expectant gazes of countless people, the mass of void cannonball charged toward the star crown barrier at a speed that was even slower than that of a celestial god. In a short 3 seconds, they could no longer see the people from the realm of the gods. They could only see the energy ball that was still roaring and plundering all the energy. If they wanted to see what was happening behind it, they could only desperately extend their senses. Then, they saw that the mass of void cannonball had already stuck to the star crown barrier. This made them almost cry out in shock. Then, the space fell silent. The mass of void energy was still roaring and expanding, but nothing happened. It did not move forward even a centimeter. Huh! What's going on? The earth-shattering explosion that they expected did not appear. Everyone was stunned. As the main controller of the Void Divine Court, the Master of the Void Divine Court was the first to be stunned. However, he was also the first to react. When he anxiously extended his senses, he was shocked to see that in the narrow gap between the mass of void energy and the terrifying and brilliant energy barrier, a translucent white arm had appeared out of nowhere. That arm easily stuck to the mass of void energy. Then, the energy that contained the fury of billions of lives calmly stopped just like that. How lively! A smiling voice slowly rang out in the tribulation cloud tunnel. It was like the sound of nature, extremely pleasant to the ears, but it made all the lives that heard and sensed it shiver. They also saw what was happening in the gap at that moment. A person had appeared there at some point. Based on the human race's aesthetic standards, she was beautiful enough to cause the downfall of a city. She was like a demon, but her strength felt like a monster. Bang! Her hand that was stuck to the mass of void energy gently squeezed. The madly expanding mass of void energy suddenly made a few sounds of energy colliding. Then, under the gazes of countless lives, a dark red light flashed out of the mass of void energy, wrapping around the entire mass of void energy. Then, it crazily squeezed inwards. In a few breaths of time, the violently resisting mass of void energy was compressed to the size of a fist. It was wrapped in a dark red light, like a restless red and black eye. Crack! The slender hand squeezed lightly, and the mass of void energy that contained billions of lives was casually crushed like a glass ball. Shards flew out of her hand. There were tens of thousands of shards that continuously fell from her hand. Along with them, countless people's uneasy hearts fell. Chapter 1357. The crisp, shattering sound did not only shatter the accumulated energy of billions of lives, but also the taut line of defense in the hearts of countless people. That simple and brutal scene seemed to be mocking them for overestimating themselves. Not to mention the others, even the faces of the void overlords had turned green. They could not stop thinking, and the more they thought, the more confused their minds became. When it was to the extreme, they even thought that they were still in a dream. Right. A dream. This must be a dream. Everyone was dreaming. They must have been under too much pressure recently and had some unimportant dreams. As long as they woke up, everything would be fine. Lord Fong, you're back safe and sound. Unlike the deathly silence on the other side, when the figure appeared, many people from the realm of the gods could not help but cry out in surprise. Their faces were full of joy, as if they were telling the good news. Then, they felt as if a huge rock had been lifted from their hearts. Lord Hui did not say anything and only had a gloomy expression, which made them very worried. Now that they saw their Lord Observer appear in front of them safe and sound, there was nothing more exciting than this. When they heard the excited and surprised voices from the God Realm's side, the morale of the people on the Void Court's side fell to rock bottom. That person was in cahoots with the God Realm. Guardian, Observer, two divine roles in the realm of the gods. The Lord of Void Divine Court's gaze swept wildly between Hui and Yun Nuoshing. In the end, he shuddered violently and stared at the latter. The words that came out of his mouth almost made his heart stop beating. Infinitely close to the primeval realm. You're the observer of the realm of the gods, you know a lot about the realm of the gods. Are you a native of 0 Point World? Have you ever crossed paths with the realm of the gods? Yun Nuoshing looked at the black sphere with a faint smile. A layer of void energy strengthened by divine right could not block his vision. He could clearly see the figure inside, and to his surprise, it was not some old man, middle-aged man, or young man as he imagined. The one who hid inside the black sphere and spoke with a hollow voice that was neither male nor female was a pretty girl of 16 or 17 years old. Of course, age and appearance were all nonsense. She looked like a girl, but in reality she could be several eras old. I don't have much malice towards your arrival. Beings who come to the realm of the gods are always welcomed with open doors as long as they don't have the intention to cause trouble. Yun Nuoshing spread his arms and took a few steps forward. He stared at the sea of people and laughed faintly. Unfortunately, my guests, you don't seem to think so. You don't have to be in a hurry to refute me. When something related to the world origin appears in your own world, you can't wait to protect it. Why would you let outsiders touch it? Don't you think so? Everyone's pale faces were now showing some embarrassment. They could not help but turn their heads away. No one dared to look him in the eyes because that was the truth. Who would allow outsiders to touch their own treasures? Unless it was an extremely special situation, such as rushing into someone else's world, no matter how much they said, could not escape the word greed. The void has always been a world where the strong prey on the weak. The winner takes all. It's not over yet. Whatever you say is useless. The Lord of Void Divine Court's hollow voice sounded as if he was gnashing his teeth. He He roared angrily and gathered the energy of the void again. Everyone, attack with me again. His roar fell in the tribulation cloud passage. This time, very few people responded. Only a few numbly raised their hand. Even among the people in the void divine court, only 50% responded to his voice and began to gather energy. Don't be led away by his aura. He's not as strong as you think he is. Hurry up and attack. Just hold on a little longer and the tribulation clouds here will dissipate. Our connection with the outside world is being restored. Once again, a loud shout rang in everyone's ears, causing everyone's expression to tremble. The might of the quadrillion lives appeared in their minds, and the battle intent that had already died was reignited. Many people shouted at the top of their lungs and began to use all of their energy. Those who were not good at long-range attacks even rushed towards Yun-Nua planet with their weapons in their hands, wanting to engage in a close-range attack with reddened eyes. Seeing the overwhelming energy sweeping towards them, Hui was about to gather his army to defend when Yun-Nuashing reached out her hand to stop him. Shu, don't be anxious. Today's matter won't end so quickly. That crystal is still incubating. Until it's done, today's matter won't be considered over. Furthermore, that little girl is right. The tribulation clouds are about to dissipate. The space between the outside world and the outside world will soon reconnect. There's no time. Well, although we can't kill them for the sake of the entire Order faction, we're not the type to just take a beating and not fight back. It's not a problem to beat them half to death and not kill them. Hey, did you hear that? Although it's not a particularly good thing to kill all of you for the sake of the greater good and the bigger picture, I'm a person who hates trouble. So, I might beat all of you half to death. Are you mentally prepared? Yun-Nuashing chuckled softly. Dark red energy spread wildly outside her body. All the energy that she had prepared long ago was now listening to her summons. Gradually, a vast and boundless sea of formations appeared behind her. Layers upon layers, one after another, one after another. If one was far enough away, they would be able to see that the formation that occupied the entire passage of the tribulation clouds outlined a mysterious rune. With a mighty impact of energy, the so-called Allied army's attack was annihilated. Those who had just surged with battle intent turned pale once again. Their minds were on the verge of collapsing. Wow, it's this level again. I Ching's face twitched. He could not help but smile bitterly. The appearance of this vast and boundless formation was enough to cause an irreversible psychological and physical blow to the enemy. Under the cover of this formation that really covered the sky, he had almost forgotten about the power of the trillions of lives. Damn it! Seeing that her attack had been nullified once again, the Lord of the Void Holy Court roared angrily. The black sphere that wrapped around her body wriggled rapidly and disappeared. Her slender body appeared in everyone's sight for the first time. That beautiful face of hers was filled with uncontrollable anger. Her figure that had just been revealed disappeared once again. However, this time, she was no longer hiding in the black sphere. Strands of black and purple energy began to appear from her legs. In the end, it enveloped her entire body. It was as if her entire body had been soaked in the energy of the void. The void is the origin of this world. It is the origin of all things. Her voice that had just returned to that of a normal woman's became hollow again. It became hoarse and murky. Her body that had been completely soaked in the energy of the void gradually melted under Yun-Nuashing's gaze. It turned into something that looked like a rhombus and an ellipsoid. The rhombus-shaped core was pointing at her from afar. An ancient and primordial energy that seemed to have come from the beginning of the world instantly spread out. Everyone could feel that the void that they had lost contact with was responding a little at this moment. It was as if the Lord of the Void's desperate stance had guided the void, causing the gap between this space and the void to become much thinner. This is the most primitive energy in this world. This is the energy that can create destruction and new life. This is the power that can create the future for the Void Holy Court. Damn it, let's fight it out with her. A ferocious look appeared on the faces of the immature youth, the skinny old man, and the others. They patted their chests and spat out blood, took things out, and changed their hand seals wildly. Seeing that the master of the Void Court and the woman were going all out, they also began to play with their lives. Even the loose cultivators were shouting and burning their lives and souls. They all put on a look of not stopping until they died. Even the corners of Green Lord's eyes twitched violently. This scene of hundreds of billions of lives playing with their lives was really shocking. It was as vast as the sea, carrying with it an endless aura of annihilation. It was as if a catastrophe had come from beyond the heavens. Even the tribulation cloud passageway was collapsing at an even faster rate under this combined power. The power that was as heavy as the void was like the sea of the void, carrying with it an endless amount of power that swept up everything in the world. The warriors of the celestial realm showed a serious expression on their faces as they secretly prepared to defend themselves. Once the observer could not hold on any longer, they would instantly step up to protect her. Hui raised his hand to block the overly bright light in front of his eyes. He inadvertently turned his head and saw that the magic array behind Yun Nuoshing had disappeared into the void. At the place where his hands were clasped, dark red energy was entangled with a mass of golden divine energy. In the center of the mass of energy, the dark red energy was entangled with a mass of golden divine energy. It spun rapidly in the center of the mass of energy, sketching out a red and golden yin and yang diagram. There were also several different colors of energy that carried the aura of origin that turned into chaotic energy particles. They condensed into a mass and condensed into thunderbolts that surrounded the two energies in the center. His low voice rang in his ears. Chaos Origin 0. Damn it. Full defense. Don't be affected by this lunatic's attack. This familiar scene made Hui so shocked that he almost bit off his tongue. With a loud cry, he took out the Guardian's shield and stood in front of him. He shrouded the star corona barrier with a layer of gilded barrier made of divine energy. Seeing his exaggerated movements, everyone shuddered and quickly switched the attack mode of the energy tower to defense mode. Layers of energy barriers covered the cross-shaped starlight formation. The chaotic world of mortals is just like the chaotic illusions in your heart. I am willing to turn into the red lotus karmic fire that cleanses all sins. I am willing to become the origin and tear apart everything that is false. At the end of this origin, all of you will turn into chaotic dust that fills the void. The beautiful mass of energy was only the size of a fist. When it floated out, it was not eye-catching at all. However, when it floated out, everyone felt that everything in this world had slowed down. The energy that had the power to destroy the world like the sea of void. The movements of countless people became abnormally slow. Even the person who created the mass of energy was so slow that he did not withdraw his hand. In this world, only the mass of golden red energy was floating forward at an abnormally fast speed compared to this almost still picture. When it reached the front of the sea of void, it slowly stopped and then suddenly bloomed. The still picture was released, and the Chaos Origin 0 point was also released in an instant. The dark red and golden light merged into a huge sun in an instant and then suddenly expanded. The star-like sphere burst out with a huge devouring force that made everyone feel despair. The energy that they tried their best to burst out was swallowed up by the expanding star the moment the still picture was released. Then, they noticed that everything in the world disappeared. They could no longer feel the familiar aura of the void, the world, space, and energy. They could not feel anything at all. It was as if their consciousness had been banished into the land of nothingness and separated from their bodies forever. All the senses in this world were just illusions and illusions to them. Of course, space collapsed, and so did the world. Logically speaking, a completely destroyed space would not show the sea of time, But the golden ocean appeared before them and was swallowed up by the star. The violent suction force was pulling everything in the world over. The mountains of tribulation clouds that could not hold on any longer were like mountains hanging beside an abyss. They could no longer withstand the pressure of gravity and collapsed. The thick clouds of tribulation clouds came down from all directions at an unimaginable speed and swallowed everyone. But this was just in passing, because the place they were really going was the center of the star, and the collapse just happened to cover the billions of unlucky souls. In fact, if not for the clouds of retribution, everything in the divine realm, including the millions of stars in the world where the divine realm was located, would have collapsed here. The chaos origin that had not been fully unleashed before was enough to block the endless death mist spawn of the Yangdan realm, and this time, the chaos origin zero that was unleashed at full power, along with the origin energy's chaos origin zero, was enough to devour the entire void. As long as the Yunhua star did not cancel its assault, the assault would continue until the zero could not hold on and blew itself up. In the instant that the tribulation clouds were devoured by the 0 point and vanished, Yun Nuoxing grabbed the 0 point with her right hand and flung it to the edge of the realm of the gods. In the instant that she did that, the strange static effect appeared again. Only the 0 point was moving slowly, as if it existed on another timeline independent of all things in the world, and as it moved, all things in the world should give way to it. As a result, when the trillions of outsiders at the edge of the realm of the gods saw the tribulation clouds dissipate and were about to take a look inside in delight, a dark red star suddenly crashed into their eyes. That was the last thing they saw in their lives. All of a sudden, a devastating explosion erupted across the skies. The storm of destructive energy that erupted from the top of the realm of the gods was dark red, and carried with it an extremely balanced destroying energy that filled the vision of every living being in every corner of the realm of the gods. Almost a third of the unlucky outsiders took the brunt of the impact head-on, with even the high-tier Empyrean gods spitting out mouthfuls of blood and having their divine souls almost extinguished. That third of the living beings were almost completely annihilated. The heavenly god-tier tourists who stood further away at the edge of the realm of the gods fared better, but they still took the shockwave head-on and were forcibly blown to the edge of the world. The entire starry sky shook violently as if there was an earthquake. Most of the starlight in the massive planetary system that surrounded the realm of the gods dimmed as many of them were detonated by the shockwave, echoing one after another across the stars. A violent new energy explosion. This time, Yun Nuoxing had deliberately shifted the second part of the explosion. If he had allowed it to explode right where it was, the violent explosion caused by the frenzied attacks of billions of living beings combined with his origin energy, there was no doubt that half of the realm of the gods would have been destroyed. However, even though he had shifted the point of the explosion to another location, the realm of the gods was still greatly impacted. After all, the shock wave of the energy explosion had already affected the other side of the starry sky. Using the observer's eye, he could see that there were at least 3,000 gigantic cracks on the ground, and that was the result of him deliberately directing most of the energy into outer space. That was why he hated fighting in his own territory, as it would tear the realm of the gods apart at any moment. Yun Nuoxing sighed. As for that 1/3 of 1,000 trillion, that had nothing to do with him. If he had the time to care about those ill-intentioned outsiders, he might as well fix those 3,000 abyssal rifts. What the hell? This is too damn exciting. Hui, who had shrunk behind Yun Nuoxing, trembled as he poked his head out from behind the guardian shield. When he saw that the space in front of him was cleaner than when the void was first created, he could not help but shudder a few times. Where are those people? Did you kill all of them? No, they all fled back to the main group the moment the thunderstorm disappeared. They are still hanging in the sky now. Yun Nuoxing pointed at the edge of the realm of the gods. Aside from the heavenly gods who were not strong enough, There was also a group of people who were quite cautious, such as the group from the Void Court and the group from the Gold Age clan. At present, it seemed that those void giants had fled when the thunderstorm disappeared. As for the remaining scattered people, whether or not they could survive depended on their own luck. They are probably preparing now, so they did not run away immediately. Hey, I'm really curious. What did they see that made them so stubborn that they could not see the difference in combat power? Oh, speaking of which, Hui scratched his head. Hui scratched his head and told him what happened when he was not around. Yun Nuoxing understood what was going on after hearing it. It was not because of something that made him so stubborn, but because that declaration had stimulated others. Could they be thinking of taking out the realm of the gods while they still have allies? Yun Nuoxing spread her hands and sighed softly. Well, no matter what they are thinking, they have been sent here today. I have no intention of letting them leave this place safely. Creation's barrier seal this world. As an invisible will spread out at infinite speed, the huge creation's barrier once again enveloped the entire realm of the gods. After that, huge divine runes began to appear on the world barrier of this world. Countless traces of energy passed through the vast galaxy and connected with the creation's barrier, forming a great sealing formation. At this moment, the countless outsiders who were still in this world suddenly realized that their connection with the void had been cut off again, and they could no longer sense the presence of other places. It was as if they were trapped in a prison. The sudden feeling also flashed through the hearts of Hui and the others. Hui touched his chest and answered vaguely. Seeing that Yun Nuoxing seemed to want to take advantage of the victory to pursue the attack, he hurriedly pulled him back. Feng, wait a moment, look at that thing. Hui pointed at the sky not far away. Yun Nuoxing looked in that direction and saw something floating about 100 miles away. He could not help but be stunned. That area was definitely within the devouring range of the origin of chaos. 0 point. It was a miracle that there was still something left. When he saw what it was, he could not help but exclaim, Fairy Record Number 2, Holy Soul, Amethyst Fairy. I never thought that I would be able to see such a legendary item in my lifetime. And it actually appeared like this? His exclamation was the first to start, and the people of the realm of the gods could not help but whisper to each other. However, it was obvious that only an extremely small number of people had heard of this so-called Holy Soul, Amethyst Fairy, and they were now telling the others about it. Its status is equivalent to the Origin Beast, that was indirectly created by the heavenly god of origin. It is a special law creation that was born when the realm of the gods evolved on its own. Everything about it is ominous. I don't know where it will appear or what form it will take. I only know that it exists, but it is also because of the observer's authority that I know about it. Yun Nuoxing could not hide his amazement as he spoke. I never thought that the so-called secret artifact, the so-called legendary item. This thing's form is ominous. It seemed to have appeared a few times in the previous era, and the first time it appeared, it was in the form of a ball of fire. Therefore, there is also a saying in the fairy record, that the legendary 3 fairies are actually 3 types of divine flames. Perhaps it is also related to the fact that the secret artifact uses divine flames as the key to open it. However, in reality, the Holy Soul, Amethyst Fairy does not have a specific form. It can transform into any form. The fire element may be one of its normal forms, so when it appeared in that form, it was regarded as a divine flame. When Yun Nuoxing said this, the amazement in his tone did not disappear. Even Hui could not help but sigh. There was actually something in this world that could make him feel amazed. The fairy record recorded a total of 3 legendary fairies. The second one is the Holy Soul, Amethyst Fairy. What about the first and third ones? Hui could not help but ask. The subtle difference between the 2 clergies caused a strange situation where he knew something that Maple did not know, and Maple knew something that he did not know. Of those two, the third one has not yet appeared in the world, so there is no record of it in my knowledge. As for the first one, Yun Nuashing glanced at him and said softly, "The light of chaos, origin, has a subtle relationship with my element of extinction." Subtle? Hui frowned, but before he could ask in detail, the holy soul, amethyst fairy that was floating not far away showed a crack with a crack. Everyone was shocked and quickly turned their gazes. The burning nebula in the center of the purple crystal was glowing with a golden light. "It's coming out. The main body is coming out." Yun Nuashing could not help but swallow his saliva. He waved his hand and said to everyone, "Hui, come with me. Qing Jun and the rest of you stay here and strengthen the defense. Be careful of outsiders attacking or anything else. If anything happens to us, the realm of the gods will be in your hands to protect." "Lord Maple!" Qing Jun was so frightened that his face turned pale. I Ching and the others also cried out in alarm. When they saw the dignified expression on his face, they knew that this thing was not as simple as the creation of the realm of the gods. It might be some kind of disaster that contained an unusually powerful energy. That thing can't be left unattended. Well, that's all for now. Hui and I will be back soon. Yun Nuashing frowned slightly and smiled. He nodded at Hui, and the two disappeared together. When they appeared next to the crystal, everyone's heart, which had just been relieved, tightened again. Chapter 1359. The grand one-day tour of the Divine Realm had caused a huge commotion. Hundreds of worlds had been dragged into the void, and if they were to include those who were just watching from the start, the number would probably jump up a few more times. Even though things had gotten out of hand and ended up in a stalemate, that was not a big deal. That was because there was an even more serious matter at hand. If they did not handle it well, they might have to fight with the trillions of lives outside. Moreover, if they really did fight this time, there would be no mercy, and both sides would not rest until they were dead. They had never been afraid of the Yun Nua planet. Quadrillion lives and what not. In the past, they had destroyed at least 7 digits of worlds. Furthermore, in the past, they didn't have so many people around them. It was just him, Hui, and about 100 or so people. Although their numbers had slowly increased, the biggest movement was when they rescued the Middle Plane 1,000 years ago. After that, they gathered so many people around them. Oh, it was a little off-topic. He mainly wanted to show that he wasn't afraid of those fellows outside at all. The origin of chaos. 0 point that he used with all his strength, unless he met someone who was a few levels stronger than his divine right and laws, no one would be able to make it collapse on its own. That would require the power of an incipient heaven god. Just that ball alone would be able to wipe out those fellows outside the divine world. However, this way, the power of the world of order would be weakened again, which went against their original intention. Righteousness and whatnot is not something that we can just talk about. But we have never forced anyone to sacrifice or die for the sake of righteousness. We have not reached such a situation yet. So, if those guys from beyond the sky attack us, we will just treat it as a normal invasion, after they understand everything. The current situation is just right. Those vanguards are scared by Maple's power. They are in a state of mental breakdown and mental exhaustion. At this time, a dose of strong medicine should be effective. I just hope that this dose of strong medicine will not be overshadowed by suppressed anger and inexplicably inflated self-confidence. If that is the case, well, let's be careful in case he is right. When Siyu woke up from the soul world of the little angel, she noticed that something was clearly wrong. After learning from Yun Nuashing and the other two about the current situation, she rolled her eyes and almost fainted. Yun Nuashing hurriedly hugged her. Yun Nuashing shook his head helplessly. He did not tell the little brat the exact numbers and plan. He only told her that there were many people watching the celestial realm, and there were many lives from different worlds. If they did not handle it well, it would cause a lot of panic. The little brat probably thought that it was only a few 100,000. Therefore, when she found out that even after killing 1/3 of the unlucky people, there were still trillions of lives left, she did not hesitate to faint like he did half an hour ago. On the celestial realm side, the two highest leaders were here. Even if they fought, it would not cause any panic. Even if they fought, they had a way to restrict all the movements to two places. One was the Kuan-Yuan region, and the other was the starry sky. The Kuan-Yuan region had already been arranged when the tribulation clouds erupted. Even if the place behind it collapsed, it would be better than tearing the celestial realm apart. As for the message, although we can directly project it into everyone's souls with our divine souls, there are many outsiders who are very hostile. If they resist, it will be troublesome. We can't guarantee that the message will be delivered completely. Hui scratched his chin. There are trillions of lives. Can we guarantee that all of them will receive the message completely? It won't be troublesome to just divide the area and use the projection crystal to transmit the message. In a situation where we can't use our divine souls to transmit the message, if we really do it one by one, we will die of exhaustion. The current situation is also not suitable to summon those leaders. Whether they will listen to you or not is a problem. If we say, "I summon you, come here," in this situation, won't you be attacked by a wave of fire? Everyone! Why did you say it in such a tone? I Ching laughed dryly. Hui rolled his eyes and said, I Ching is right, so it's better to tell them directly. Let's use the projection crystal and let the hunter team project the crystal to those outsiders. We'll talk about the rest later. If they ignore it, if they don't do anything. Oh, alright, let's not care about that. There will be those who leave peacefully and feel that there is no hope in the void and that their future is bleak, right? We can't force them, so let those who want to leave leave. When the time comes, we'll let them know the reality. If they want to stay, we'll fight them head-on. Then let's kill them. As soon as Yun Nuoshing said this, the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped by 100 degrees. Everyone could clearly feel the whistling snowflakes of the southern ice realm hitting their hearts. The cold air carried the smell of blood. Anyway, let's prepare the projection crystal first. I don't know how big the mother crystal would be if we were to talk about it to thousands of lives at the same time. Have you guys made such a big model before? Hui coughed softly. Everyone shook their heads. The fragments that were knocked out of the mother crystal could project the image that appeared on the other side of the mother crystal. Usually, they would make a wash-basin-sized piece and then knock it a few times, or simply make a fist-sized piece and break it in half and put it in their house. Occasionally, they would chat with the people they cared about. However, it was far less useful than soul communication. The projection crystal was more often used between ordinary people and some individuals whose soul power was not very strong. People of their level would not use such an inconvenient thing. Sorry to trouble you. Hui knocked his head with a headache. To put it bluntly, the projection crystal was a means of communication used by the people. He suddenly knocked his palm. Oh, the hunter team will each prepare a projection crystal, and then we will talk in the soul. A double broadcast is fine. Yun Nuoshing instantly understood what he meant. Her face twitched. Should we set up the venue or something? After all, this is a conversation for hundreds, thousands of worlds. Everyone. Seems a little necessary. A row of black lines appeared on Yun Nuoshing's forehead. She shook her head helplessly and sighed. Just as she was sighing, she heard the sound of the earth shaking. She turned around and saw a group of people who were overly active had already started working when the plan was approved. Furthermore, they were planning to use the local materials to build it. From the looks of it, they were planning to build a great hall, and they were already more than halfway done. Yun Nuoshing covered her face and waved her hand to stop herself from looking at the image. Just as she was thinking about how to make Hui express their intentions in a simple and detailed manner, the great hall was already completed. Furthermore, a lot of precious materials were used to build it. Conservatively speaking, it was as if they had thrown in all the possessions of some unlucky Empyrean god of origin. The magnificent hall was luxurious, noble, grand, and magnificent. At first glance, it was as if they were going to summon all the beings of the void to discuss the survival of the void. Why do I feel like these guys chose the wrong talent? Yun Nuoshing finally couldn't help but blurt out. Huey's cheeks twitched. He. By the way, I Ching, has there been any news from the Hunter Squad? Have the guests reacted in any way? Changing the topic. Yun Nuoshing sighed helplessly. As for the commotion, he had indeed heard some commotion. Or rather, he had heard it long ago. At the moment when the creation's barrier was holding up the world barrier, he could hear almost everything in this world. However, that would drive him crazy. Probably no one wanted to experience the experience of having several quadrillions of beings shouting into their ears at the same time. That was why he had only limited himself to the area around the realm of gods. However, a quadrillion was a quadrillion after all. When he heard the buzzing sound in his ears, he immediately wanted to blast those noisy idiots away. Sir, we've used immolate to squeeze out 10 times the power, but we still can't open the world barrier. The space is also completely sealed. That wave of attacks has been reflected back at us. Space formations are ineffective, void formations are ineffective. What the hell is going on in this godforsaken world? I just skipped work and came here to join in the fun. How did I get trapped here? There's no response to the realm of gods at all. It seems like the enemy doesn't want to talk to us. I'm afraid they want to trap us here until we die. Tell those noisy idiots to be quiet for this, Daddy. Do these damned mobs think they can break the seal of the realm of gods with their strength? Those were the voices that echoed in his ears. It seemed like someone was already attacking the world barrier and analyzing space and other things. Even if they really tore space apart, they wouldn't be able to borrow any void energy. Furthermore, there were no beings here that could break through the creation's barrier. In other words, even if they worked together, they might not be able to escape this world. Oh, he felt that the fourth sentence of the loud voice was quite to his liking. Phone. I've prepared my lines. Yun Nuoshing raised his head and was surprised to find that he had been moved into the hall that had just been built. A group of people were really busy setting up the venue here. Hui walked over from the side and stuffed a crystal ball into his hand. There shouldn't be any problems. Take a look. Yun Nuoshing nodded and said, Don't worry. Take a look. Yun Nuoshing took the crystal ball and gave it a cursory glance. There was also a recording of the fierce battle when they were assisting the Middle Realm. The battle that broke the void was very effective. There shouldn't be any problems. You don't have to show it to me. Just do as you see fit. Hui nodded with a smile and turned to leave. All right then. Just read it out loud. Wait. Yun Nuoshing reached out his hand and stopped a certain guardian who was trying to slip away. His pretty face darkened. I might have been hallucinating just now. But it doesn't matter. I'll leave this glorious mission to you. After he finished speaking, he pressed the crystal ball into Huey's arms, turned around and jumped away, but before he could jump away, Hui, who was being hunted by a fierce tiger, grabbed his waist and almost fell flat on his face. Yun Nuoshing grabbed the floor that had just been set up and struggled desperately to escape. You guardian! It's your duty to show your face. Go up and study obediently. Lord Observer, the strongest person in the god realm, just showed his face and intimidated everyone. Now that things have gotten to this point, you still want to run away? Damn it, I just killed 1/3 of the outsiders. You want me to show my face just to attract their attention, right? I'm afraid that I'll be bombarded from the sky the moment I show my face. You want to intensify the conflict so that you have an excuse to kill those guys, right? I don't care. You go. I won't. You go. The people in the hall who were quickly decorating the venue saw the Guardian and Lord Observer rolling on the ground and wrestling with each other. Their jaws hit the ground and they all turned into statues on the spot. Come on. Let's duel. Hui roared and threw Yun Nuoshing back to the center of the hall. Energy surged out violently. Yun Nuoshing had just stood up when she saw Hui rushing over aggressively. She was shocked and hurriedly reached out to block him. Wait a minute. You bully people, I've never. The words and the subconscious actions happened at the same time. Seeing that the two lords were about to fight, everyone hurriedly withdrew from the monument state and formed energy barriers. Their faces were covered in sweat. Just as they closed their eyes and couldn't bear to see what would happen in the next second, the surging momentum of the two suddenly disappeared. The hall returned to calmness. Everyone opened their eyes with sweat on their faces and looked at the two people who were less than a meter away from each other. Then, they looked at their gestures and couldn't help but vomit blood. The two of them waved their fists forcefully. Hui's 5 fingers were wide open and Yun Nuoshing's 5 fingers were clenched into fists. That posture was like two little kids playing rock, paper, scissors at the entrance of a village. But this couldn't be said. If they said it, they would be beaten to death. Yun Nuoshing opened her eyes and saw Hui's victorious smile. She waved her 5 fingers in front of him and then looked at her fists. Her pretty face instantly turned red. It's not fair. I've never won. Everyone was shocked. They turned their heads and didn't say anything. After thinking for a second, they decided to bury themselves in work. If they looked at them again, they felt that they would be suffocated to death. They didn't expect that the two lords would have such a, just, cute side. It's over. They felt that if they continued to think about it, something would collapse. I Ching walked over with a stiff face and handed a crystal ball to Hui. Then, he quickly walked to the side. After Hui read the information in the crystal ball, he grinned. Well, it's settled then. I just asked the hunter squad to take a look at the situation of the guests. It was a little beyond my expectations. I thought that they would really resist and attack the realm of the gods or something. Yun Nuoshing looked at her fists gloomily. She sighed and put her hands back into her sleeve. So, what's the result? There's no special attack against the realm of the gods. Some stubborn people hit the creation's barrier a few times, but the punishment form reflected 70 to 80% of the energy and almost killed themselves. The world barrier had a similar effect because it was taken over by the creation's barrier, but it wasn't as strong. Half of the people were encouraged to attack the world barrier and almost killed themselves. After that, there were only a few who tried to break it. There were also some who tried to analyze the space, some who wanted to get into the sea of time, some who meditated on the spot, some who went crazy. Hui tossed the crystal ball in his hand. Anyway, let's just leave those guys alone. Soon, those panicking fellows will cause some trouble in the sealed space. So, Feng, don't resist anymore. Hui smiled sinisterly and patted Feng on the shoulder. Lord Observer, you also need to stand in front of the stage. Yun Nuoshing's face was twisted into a grimace. Hui's back was sweating. But in the end, he still agreed. Okay. I'll go. Okay? It's done. Hui laughed sinisterly this time. He knew that if Yun Nuoshing resisted to the end, he wouldn't be able to get her up there even if he wanted to. Plus, he would get a bump on his head. He didn't know what was going on this time. The guy who usually hated to show his face in public actually gave in. Hui laughed and clapped his hands. Lighting. Music. Let's get high. Yun Nuoshing was so angry that she wanted to knock him awake. Anyway, by the time the two of them finished arguing, the Great Hall had already stopped being extremely busy. The decorations. He didn't know how to describe it. In any case, it looked a little too grand. We're going to tell them something, not to film a blockbuster. Why did I lose the emblem of the realm of the gods? The original emblem I lost didn't look like this, right? Can you tell me what you're planning to do with all these benches and chairs and the style of the Great Hall? Hey, don't worry about it. Just go and read your lines. We pushed him to the side. Go, go, go. Don't set up the scene in front of us. This is the first time the realm of the gods is officially talking to the void. If we don't make it grand, won't our reputation be tarnished? The realm of the gods is known for its ferocity in the outside world. That little angel, take him to change his clothes and put on his makeup. Yun Nuoshing was just about to protest when we pushed him to the side of the little angel. The little angel's soft laughter drew his attention. As soon as he raised his head, he was pulled to hide behind a screen that blocked his vision. Then, the little angel slowly took out a piece of clothing that left him a little regretful. Where did you get this? Yun Nuoshing was stunned again. The long robe and long cloak that appeared in the little angel's hands were dyed in the familiar purplish-black color of the starry sky. There were gold and red patterns drawn on the robe and cloak. The patterns as a whole looked like the emblem of the realm of the gods. The edges were even dotted with the origin marks patterns. These clothes were King replica of the clothes that Xian and the others made in the Qin family's residence. They just changed the color and logo a little. The little angel grabbed him and put the clothes on him as she said, "It's only been a few days. I think these clothes look pretty good." Yun Nuoshing wanted to cry but had no tears. They did look good, very gorgeous, and very well, but girl, wearing these clothes made him look like he was about to get married. It didn't suit him at all. Right now, he was about to show his face and shock everyone, not announce that he was about to get married in the void. Why did he feel so tired today? After coming out of the barrier, that isolated space, the little angel pulled him in front of the mirror. Yun Nuoshing looked at himself with black lines under his eyes. The robe that contained the mysterious colors of the starry sky flowed like water. The mark on the shoulder that represented the observer was engraved on the thin cloak. No matter what, the mysterious and symbolic emblem of the divine realm and the origin mark that could not be mistaken. There were also two colorless streamers that extended from the shoulders under the cloak. This set of clothes once again appeared neatly in front of his eyes, and there was something else added. You walked over from the side with unconcealable amazement in her eyes. Little Star is married? Yun Nuoshing almost burst into tears. When everyone saw that the screen had disappeared, they also looked inside curiously. As a result, everyone's worldview almost collapsed into pieces. The man was first stunned. Then when he found out that Master Feng was a man, he wanted to poke his own eyes out. The woman's eyes were wide open and her face was red. Jing Yuanji, who had a special affection for him, walked up to him directly. She wanted to dig out her eyeballs and stick them on him to record this scene. Then, under Huey's gaze, he walked to the innermost part of the hall and stood on the high platform. Hunter team, spread the crystals to every corner of the world. Make sure that every life form, even if it's an outsider, must be seen by it. Yes, God. The hunters who were hiding in the void at the edge of the celestial realm raised their longbows and projectile weapons in unison. One of them materialized a huge catapult with energy and filled it with shards of reflection crystal. As the countdown rang out, everyone threw the shards of reflection crystal into the reality realm. The hunter team in the realm of the gods also threw out the mirror crystal that they had prepared. In short, they tried to project it next to the marked life forms as much as possible. As for how many people would receive the message, no one knew. The tiny crystal shards were probably only the size of a finger, and the largest was no more than the length of a finger. They quietly scattered all over the marked areas in the realm of the gods and appeared next to the outsiders. Due to their small size and lack of presence, no one noticed them at all. It was only when the huge image appeared in the realm of the gods and appeared in the realm of the gods that they were noticed. At that moment, the entire realm of the gods fell silent for a moment. The life forms that were madly attacking the realm of the gods and running around in panic all stopped. As for those who did not see it immediately, they felt that something was wrong the moment they sensed the silence in the realm of the gods. Most of them ran towards the realm of the god. Because of this chain reaction, 90% of the life forms should have seen the image that traversed the realm of the gods. They also saw the realm of the gods in the realm of the gods. They also saw the majestic realm of the gods and the majestic realm of the gods. In the middle of the realm of the gods stood a young lady in a formal dress. She looked as if she was about to get married. I am very happy to be able to gather with all of you in the realm of the gods. I am Feng Ling, the observer of the realm of the gods. In your realm of the gods I may be called the Guardian, Enforcer, Realm Master, or some other titles. But that is not important. Now I will show you the hidden truth of this realm, the other side of this realm of the gods that you do not know. Chapter 1360. He recited the script that he had prepared beforehand. When he recited the script, he also released the battle memories that might add up to 10 minutes long, but actually spanning over 1,000 years. He also mentioned the distorted creations at the edge of the lower plane, and even more, so that these fellows who lived deep in the upper plane and didn't know about the calamities of the middle and lower planes would have a preliminary or in-depth understanding of the situation. After he finished reciting these things, Yun Nuoshing let out a light breath. He looked around and could only see the crowd in the hall. He couldn't see the situation in the starry sky. He thought for a moment and added, "We don't have absolute malice towards your arrival. Be it hostility or war, it's all because of your arrival. It's a necessary means to achieve a certain goal. Just like now, at least there's a false period of peace where we can say a few words." The group of outsiders couldn't help but curse in their hearts. There was no malice, no enmity, and he had arranged them so well that their brains were bleeding. Damn it, he had just wiped out 1/3 of them. But then again, if it wasn't for his thunderous suppression, they might have already started fighting in the celestial realm and turned the place into a pot of porridge. Under such circumstances, who would listen to the so-called observer of the celestial realm? To be honest, if it weren't for the fact that he couldn't beat them and was still trapped here, he would have already caused a huge ruckus. The many outsiders in the stars looked at each other, some curling their lips in disdain, but all of them had their own thoughts. It would be a lie to say that they were not shocked by the images just now. Half of them knew about that thing, but that was all they knew. They only knew about it when they came to this zero-point world to gather information, and they also knew that it was now standing in the middle plane like a void wall cutting the plane in half. There was a force belonging to the Order faction guarding the front lines, and there were intelligence agents there as well. As for the other half, they did not know about it at all, and just as Yun Nuoshing and the others had guessed, there were still many beings in this zero-point world who were unaware of the existence of the abyssal death shroud. That's all I have to say. There's no point in talking any further. We will be opening the gates to the realm of the gods in 3 days. At that time, if you have anything to say, if you want to complain, if you want to understand, or if you want to fight again. Yun Nuoshing's lips curled into a slightly evil smile. Then, I look forward to meeting you again in 3 days. The colossal image that stretched across the stars slowly faded, but before it vanished, a sentence was faintly heard before the image could vanish. It's fine as long as a few words can solve everything in the world. So, prepare what you need to prepare. If there are any troublemakers in 3 days, sink them into the void and grind their bones to dust. Identify those who have the potential to become a force that stands in the way of the Order faction, and destroy all the worlds behind them. It doesn't matter if there are 1,000 or 2,000 more worlds destroyed. The image vanished completely, and all things returned to silence even before that sentence was finished. Amidst the silence, a bone-chilling coldness crept into the hearts of the heavenly gods and the Empyrean god of origin, so much so that they felt a little nauseous. It seems that in these 3 days, we really should be quiet and think things through. At first, he said that he meant no harm, but then he said that he would grind their bones to dust. That was practically hell with a single thought, and there was no heaven. As long as they stood on the wrong side, there might not be a single world left behind after 2 or 3 days. That was a demon, and his tone was serious. He would not care even if someone unrelated to him died in the flames. The Void Court and the Desolate Demon Court's teams had gathered together in a rare occasion without causing much commotion. More than a dozen Void Giants had gathered together, and their teams were lined up neatly in the void like a wall of stars. At that moment, the leaders of the Giants were conversing across the stars. "Master of the Void Court, what do you think of what the observer from the realm of God said?" The thin old man turned his gaze to the tall, slender woman who had been knocked out of her void state. Everyone looked at her as well. As far as they knew, in this region of the void, excluding the realm of gods, this woman's void court was the strongest. She was also slightly stronger than them. If even she submitted to them, they would have no other choice. The tall woman's pretty face was as cold as ice. She glanced at everyone, then lowered her gaze and clenched her fists tightly. "Why are you asking me? Your plans are your own business. They have nothing to do with me." After saying that, her consciousness quietly faded away, leaving only the others looking at each other. The thin old man looked outside and couldn't help but shake his head. The young ladies these days were more stubborn and cold than the last. Even though they spoke so coldly, they still didn't make the team leave the formation. Forget it. There's nothing to say. There's no point in playing riddles here. If you have time to think about other things, why don't you think about how we're going to face those from the realm of gods in 3 days? If they really want us outsiders to die, it'll only take them a little time. The thin old man sighed and stood up. He shook his head and walked into the darkness. "I'm old. The biggest mistake I've made in my life was following the waves to the realm of gods to watch the show. I've been slick my whole life, but now I've finally thrown myself in." The others looked at each other, then looked in the direction the two had left. They shook their heads helplessly and said their goodbyes before returning to their own teams. Their minds were filled with more and more chaotic thoughts. However, before they could settle those thoughts, they still had to adjust their physical condition. If they waited for 3 days with this broken body, then there was really no hope. Even if they couldn't recover to their peak state, they could at least recover most of it. In such a dangerous place, it was always good to have more strength. It was also because of this that these void giants had all gathered together. The faction of order. Who would have thought that they would consider such a trivial matter from the big picture? Then I'll leave the reception of the guests 3 days later to you all. In the great hall, Yun Nuoshing stretched and walked down from the high platform. She grinned fiercely at Hui, who was slowly walking towards her. "Do you believe that I'll bite you to death if you ask me to take your place one more time?" "Hui. I just wanted to say," coughed Feng, "you're really evil. You deliberately delayed the image by 5 seconds so that those words would accidentally spread." Yun Nuoshing waved his hand dismissively. Only a fool would think that it was an accident. If they couldn't see through it, they would have lived for nothing for the past few eras. It was just a necessary threat and warning. The big picture. Do you know that I hate the word big picture the most? That's why I don't intend to act according to the most foolish way of doing everything for the big picture. Either I preserve what I know of the realm of the gods before thinking about the big picture, or I break up and bury the entire void. Either way, I can't avoid the word destroy. What, you don't want to do anything and sacrifice anything, and you want to welcome a happy ending. It's just death. At most, we'll die together. Let's see who comes back to dig their graves first. Everyone could not help but smile bitterly. That was really the domineering speech of the observer that they were familiar with. "Lord Feng, the stars have quieted down. I Ching, who had been paying attention to the starry sky, suddenly said, "It's like all the outsiders suddenly lost their strength. They stopped struggling all of a sudden. I can see many signs of life gathering together. I can also hear a lot of discussion. Do you want to listen?" "There's no need for that. We can more or less guess what they're talking about. There's no need to pay attention to that. During our absence, there were no uninvited guests, right?" Yun Nuoshing shook her head and changed the topic. "No, those guys didn't move." Green shook his head. Seeing him frown, he was also puzzled. "Those bastards should be paying attention to the realm of the gods. How could there be no movement in such a big mess? Could it be that they judged that we wouldn't reveal any flaws because of this level of chaos, so they didn't come over?" I Ching said. Hearing that, we pondered for a while. After thinking for a long time, he realized that his mind was blank. He could only smile awkwardly and look at Yun Nuoshing. Seeing that, the latter shook her head helplessly. "I think that the distorted race didn't appear because they were afraid of being focused on, so they urged these outsiders to join forces with us. I've heard before that they are like a plague in the void. Maybe those guys in the void court have also fought with the distorted race." I Ching's eyes flashed. He cupped his hands at Yun Nuoshing. "I'll go and investigate." "There's no need, he's gone." Just as Yun Nuoshing was about to say that there was no need, I Ching had already rushed out with a flash of light. His speed was so fast that even Yun Nuoshing was stunned for a moment. He could not help but smile bitterly. "All right, he's really fast. Forget it, let I Ching go and investigate. But even if they really have something to do with the distorted race, forget it, I'm too lazy to pay attention to it. It's not like I'm relying on myself to deal with those bugs. We'll have to work hard for the next 3 days. We still have to be vigilant in these 3 days. After all, there are a lot of uninvited guests in the courtyard. I'm worried that if we're not careful, they'll cause some strange trouble in this world. When that happens, we'll have to clean up the mess." Yun Nuoshing yawned. "Let's take turns monitoring the situation. I'm going to rest for a while." Why are all of you looking at me like that?" Halfway through his sentence, he opened one eye and saw everyone staring at his face with horrified eyes. Above him, they even took a few steps back slightly, made hand gestures, gathered energy, and vigilantly looked as if they were ready to die. Hui was also stunned. After he reacted, he waved at everyone and said, let's go, let's go. This little guy has become Maple's pillow. Don't worry about him." Everyone gasped in shock and looked at Yun Nuoshing with admiration. They cupped their hands and slipped out of the hall. After everyone left, Yun Nuoshing raised her head and touched her head. She touched her head and looked at Yun Nuoshing with admiration. After everyone had slipped away, Yun Nuoshing raised his hand to touch his head. As expected, he touched a ball of something and lifted it off his head without using any strength. It was the Holy Soul, immortal purple crystal. It had disappeared for a long time, and they did not react. Now that they saw it again, it appeared here as if it was natural, and it looked like it was full and did not want to move at all. God knows where it had run to just now. I just realized that this little guy seemed to have disappeared. Strange, I didn't pay attention to it just now. Now that I look through my memory, I realize that it slipped out right under my nose. Hui scratched his head. I'm not surprised at all. Even I can't do anything about Little Purple Soul's talent. It comes and goes like a ghost. Yun Nuoshing shrugged helplessly. Little Purple Soul? Hui was slightly stunned. Took him a while to react. Oh, you've even named it. Are you really going to keep it? Do you think I'll just leave it aside? Yun Nuoshing sighed in exasperation. He hugged the little purple soul that had yet to transform, as if he was hugging little Huan. However, the feeling was a little different. The little purple soul that had yet to transform was a soft ball. He had to be very careful when hugging it, as if he was hugging little Huan. It was different when hugging little Huan. That little fellow that was as fat as a ball could squeeze it with just a little force. Oh, it was very soft to sleep on as a pillow. Coming back to her senses, Yun Nuoshing lowered her head and looked at the oval-shaped ball of soft mud in her hands. She could not help but say, "You'll be called Little Purple Soul. You'll live with us from now on." The holy soul, the amethyst fairy, seemed to raise its head. He could feel that there was a gaze coming from the soft mud and looking at him. After a while, it rolled around in his hand, as if it had agreed to it. Yun Nuoshing could not help but sigh. The name had been tacitly acknowledged. This history, this time, after dozens of eras, had formed a circle. Everything had come to the beginning of time, the time when he and the little purple soul had met. Life is really a play. It's a play that plays out over and over again. The little angel stood not far behind the two of them. She could not help but let out a long sigh when she saw this scene. Hearing this, Siyu looked at her curiously. She thought for a while and went to Yun Nuoshing's side. 3 days was not a long time. It would pass in a blink of an eye. Probably because there was an extremely terrifying threat hanging around them, the outsiders all over the starry sky had not rested well for the past 3 days. They were worried that they would be stabbed in the back when they rested. Many people had such thoughts. Many people just sat there and waited for the 3 days to pass. To them, the 3 days were as long as simmering soup over a slow fire. More importantly, they were the ones being simmering, so the wait was extremely long. By the time the sun and moon of the Pantheon world had finished their 3 rounds of dance, many experts were already paying close attention to the situation in the Pantheon world. It was currently the 3rd day, and the Pantheon world was once again completely surrounded. However, unlike the previous time, there were not many people with obvious hostility. Most of them had dark circles under their eyes and looked tired as they waited for the Pantheon world's gate to open. In the distance, a powerful team came. Everyone turned around and saw that it was the Void God Court and the other Void Gods. For the first time, they were walking together. It doesn't look like they came with the intention to fight. Even the Void God Court and the others have to bow under the pressure of the Celestial Realm. No wonder the Celestial Realm is called the number 1 major world. The crowd only glanced at them, sighed, and made way. Their hearts were filled with mixed feelings. Many people had fantasized about going to the Celestial Realm to fight, but they did not expect to come here at this time. They also did not expect to encounter such a situation at this time. The Void God Court and the other Void Gods teams came to a stop after a certain distance. 5 or 6 people walked out from their teams. The leader of the team was their leader, who had come in person. He did not bring too much so-called battle strength, but he did not lose his seriousness. Moreover, the leader did not hide in the black sphere this time. He faced the world with his true appearance, which showed that he was sincere if he was sincere. When the moonlight completely faded away from the Pantheon world, a barrier suddenly appeared in the originally transparent region of the Pantheon world. It was surging with an unimaginable amount of energy. When the barrier that enveloped the entire Pantheon world appeared in its complete form before everyone's eyes, everyone grimaced and sucked in a breath of cold air. Although they had attacked it before and seen the barrier, they did not recognize how big it was at all. Now that they saw its true form and felt the unimaginable amount of energy contained in the barrier, they almost fainted. They kept asking themselves what kind of monster they had provoked these past few days. Not long after the creation's barrier appeared, it began to ripple like water. In just a moment, it completely disappeared into space and dissipated into pure energy. The realm of the gods had been opened, but the minds of the people standing in the sky were still stuck in the previous scene. It was not until a voice rang in their ears that they came back to their senses with a shudder. "Everyone, the celestial realm has opened. If you want to come for a chat, please come to the place 3 days ago. If you want to tour the celestial realm, feel free to do so as well. However, I must remind you that after you enter the celestial realm, you will be in our alert range. If you have any ill intentions and are injured by the rules of the celestial realm, we will not be responsible. Now, please. Everyone's cheeks twitched violently. Punishment that covered the rules of the entire world? This method was too exaggerated. Buzz. While they were still hesitating, the Lord of Void Court had already taken the lead and descended into the celestial realm. Seeing that someone had taken the lead, the others hurriedly followed and surged into the celestial realm. Originally, they thought that only some people could enter, so many people did not plan to tour the celestial realm. Now that they heard that they could enter but could not cause trouble, they all descended into the celestial realm. It was as if it was raining outside the sky. Even so, 80% of the people remained in the starry sky for various reasons. Unlike 3 days ago, when they had come to the divine realm with a strong purpose in mind, this time, many of them entered the divine realm with either a more relaxed or more serious attitude. Without exception, they all sensed the aura of a law that was several times or even several dozen times stronger than the aura of their own world. It was as if some kind of restriction had been activated. They definitely did not sense this aura 3 days ago. Quite a few people suddenly paused in the air and subconsciously pressed their chests. Even these origin realm beings felt a yearning that they had not felt in a very long time. A few thoughts immediately popped up in their heads, and some of them even drifted very, very far away. The Lord of Void Court and the others directly arrived at the Tribulation Cloud mountain range that they had been to a few days ago. When they saw that there was a palace here, they were all stunned. They all landed in front of the palace and looked around for a moment. Just as they were about to walk forward, the door of the palace opened from the inside. Everyone took a deep breath and looked at the door nervously. Then they were stunned. They did not know when, but a figure had appeared in front of the door. It was as if he had been there from the beginning. It was just that they had never noticed him. They had seen him before. That day, he had been standing beside another white-robed enforcer. Everyone, please. Lady Green gestured for everyone to enter. Then she turned around. Her robes fluttered as she walked into the palace first. Everyone hesitated for a second or two and looked at each other. The Lord of Void Court had already led his people into the palace first. Everyone could not help but smile bitterly. This woman was extremely cold and decisive. She left as soon as she said she would, without any hesitation at all. However, there was indeed no need for any hesitation. With her strength, killing them was as easy as lifting a hand. She could have killed them 3 days ago. There was no need for her to wait until now. This palace had been moved into another infinitely large space within 3 days. At this moment, everyone followed Lady Green's footsteps. What they saw was not a hall filled with murderous people. Instead, it was a square. Horizontally and vertically, there was a golden pillar erected on the square every 100 meters. Several quarter-ring-shaped objects rose from both sides of the square and converged towards the center. This square was a replica of the square that Yun Nuoshing saw in the origin world. He did not dare to make an identical one, for fear of causing trouble. At this moment, these 100-meter-tall pillars were filled with people. However, they did not look down. The stones under the feet of the Lord of Void Court and the others suddenly loosened and turned into a stone platform that lifted them into the air. On the highest ring in the center of the square, the guardian of the gods' world, Hui, sat there cross-legged, quietly watching them come before him. "Hello, outsiders." Hui waited for them to stand firmly on the stone platform before slowly opening his mouth. "I won't say the common words. Feng Ling is busy with other things at the moment, so I am here to receive all of you. Please forgive me. In order to avoid the trivial matters of the meeting, let's make everything clear once and for all. About what you saw that day, about the void, about the battle in the future, and also about the Order faction, all of these trivial matters are gathered together to form a single sentence. That is, a matter that concerns our lives. So, let's put aside those unnecessary schemes. Until this very moment, we have never met each other before, so there's no need for us to talk about any schemes. Chapter 1363. If that's the case, there's no need for me to repeat my reason for coming here, is there? It's the same reason why all of you are kneeling here. Oh, that's right. All of you are walking on a tightrope in the dark, as well. You should have come into contact with the dark side of the realm of the gods. Then, I wonder if you guys think that this appearance would be more familiar? The sealed house of Blaze was completely isolated from the outside world. Yun Nuashing slowly walked among the 167 people kneeling on the ground. A layer of white light surged over his body and slowly dyed his clothes a snowy white. Almost all color had been lost, and the dazzling white light on his body could tear apart the darkness of the night. Even a different reason would suffice, wouldn't it? In fact, I don't need any reason to do anything to all of you, anything. The gray-robed man was drenched in cold sweat, which poured down like a waterfall and left a puddle on the ground. He was scared out of his wits. He knew about the nature of the dark side of the House of Blaze. Even though he was unwilling to come into contact with it, he couldn't persuade his eldest brother, second brother, and fourth brother. Their methods were too cruel to him, and Feng Qinghuang was just one example, a living example. Rebirth Realm Prohibition Number 22. High-level lifeforms such as Rebirth Realm are forbidden from killing or hunting low-level lifeforms for no reason. Rebirth Realm Prohibition Number 23. High-level lifeforms such as Rebirth Realm are forbidden from using any extreme means to control or bind low-level lifeforms. Of course there's more, but I'm too lazy to read it, and there are many loopholes. For example, these prohibitions are only effective in the realm of the gods. For example, if they are discovered by us. That's right, it's fine if they aren't discovered by us. But if they are discovered, you know the consequences. The Blaze Feather Clan is a great clan that coexists in both alchemy and alchemy. It has existed for more than an epoch, and in the records we found, you captured no less than 60,000 inferior lifeforms under the orders of the three gods. You used them to refine medicine, test medicine, and refine them into medicine slaves. 43,000 of them died in the process, and the rest were used up while you were researching certain taboos, causing 166 damage to the laws within 150 million kilometers. The 26 prohibitions against Rebirth Realm experts were basically meant to protect those who had yet to reach the Rebirth Realm. After all, they had grown up step by step since they were weak. If the Rebirth Realm experts of the entire God Realm were allowed to do whatever they wanted, the world would have long since fallen into chaos. Furthermore, these were only superficial restrictions. For example, the 22nd prohibition did not prohibit mass slaughter, but if there were other reasons, such as someone who had broken into the Rebirth Realm and wanted to take revenge on some fellows, such as exterminating an entire clan or something, it was not prohibited. To put it bluntly, it was just a reason and a motive. However, the judgment here was not made by the person involved, but by the executors after they understood everything that was involved. As for the so-called prohibitions, they referred to formations, talismans, alchemy, and alchemy that required one's life and certain items to operate. In other words, they were considered evil by the world. However, in the eyes of Yun Nuashing and the others, the reason why they were considered prohibitions was because those people could not understand and properly use these extremely unorthodox and twisted things. They had no choice but to use extreme means to use them. This was because even if Yun Nuashing and the others wanted to use these things, they would still need to prepare in advance. However, they would not use their life and touch the prohibitions like Yun Nuashing and the others. They had plenty of ways to turn these unorthodox things into things that could be used normally. Throwing out these so-called reasons was just like the gray-robed man had said, to let them know what was going on. So. There are so many things in this world. It's impossible for me to manage all of them. Regardless of the slaughter you've caused and the sins you've committed, I have not taken the initiative to investigate and deal with them. It's just that you've run into the muzzle of my gun. The cause of everything you've done in the past has become the effect today. You've found yourselves. Yun Nuoshing walked in front of the Blaze Feather family's progenitor and crouched down to look at him. He watched as the progenitor's eyes widened in fear as he stared at where Yun Nuoshing was. Yun Nuoshing gently reached out and smashed the progenitor's head into the ground. Anyway, that's what happened. You should be glad that you didn't participate in this. Of all the things I know, if any of them were related to you, there would be another 167 people added to the list, or 4 or 5, or even several dozen people added to the list. Yun Nuoshing turned around with a smile that was like a flower and looked at the gray-robed middle-aged man. There's no point in arguing about it. But according to what I know, other than the eldest, second, and fourth, there are some who participated in it. But there should be a portion of people here who are not involved, right? The gray-robed man trembled as he looked at the god's feet. He did not dare to raise his head. Yes, that's right. There are only 127 people who violated those prohibitions. So, what's going on with the remaining 40 people? Yun Nuoshing waved her hand and threw out a white light that landed on the 127 people. It turned into a white light that enveloped them into a ball. Then, with a slight sway, she disappeared from where she was and teleported to where they should be. As for the remaining 40 people in the plaza, Yun Nuoshing's observer form gradually faded away. The white light disappeared as well. So far, this is what I have to do as the enforcer. Yun Nuoshing twisted her neck. What happened next is indeed related to you. Feng Qinghuang, that little girl. Do you remember her? Not only the 40 people who were lying on the ground and had stopped the cycle of death, but everyone else who was gathered here was startled. Their expressions changed drastically. I've been looking for her for a long time. Epoch after epoch, I've been waiting for a long time. Then, one day I finally saw her. But what I saw was a devastated look on her face. Yun Nuoshing's smile became even brighter. I've just given all of you an explanation. Now, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Forget it. You don't have to say anything. I already know those things. So, I'll tell you. You should be glad that you didn't participate in it. Yun Nuoshing looked at the gray-robed middle-aged man and said softly. The gray-robed middle-aged man swallowed. So, whether it was the judgment or something else, this was actually his true purpose for coming here. He told them everything without hiding anything. He just wanted them to know. He was just venting his anger on them. So, I'm taking these 40 people with me. Yun Nuoshing's voice suddenly became calm and even a little cold. The gray-robed middle-aged man sucked in a cold breath and showed a troubled expression. Because you're still a member of the Blazing Feather family. So, you don't want to give up. I can understand your thoughts. After all, there are 2 or 3 people who are slightly related to you. Yun Nuoshing spread her hands and smiled faintly. Everyone wants to protect the people they cherish, and I'm no exception. However, I've already said that I have nothing to do with the enforcer now. I'm just a person who can't stand seeing her get hurt and came to cause trouble. None of these 167 people are innocent. Within the range of the rebirth state's prohibition, I can implicate another 100 or so people. After all, to people like you who knew about this series of events but still silently agreed to it, I have the right to bargain, whether I'm an ordinary rebirth state expert or an enforcer. Do you understand? If you want to continue to cover up something and bargain with me, you'd better be mentally prepared. Think about the price you have to pay for moving your mouth. Yun Nuoshing said coldly. Seeing that everyone was silent and embarrassed, she snorted coldly. I won't order the execution of these 40 people directly, nor will I send them to the nightmare boundary. However, according to my personal punishment standards, it won't be a good place either. Whether they can come back alive will depend on their luck." The gray-robed middle-aged man smiled bitterly. He gritted his teeth and nodded with difficulty. He raised his trembling hand and bowed solemnly to Yun Nuoshing. "Thank you, God, for your mercy." Yun Nuoshing glanced at him and waved her hand. The remaining 40 people were also sent into the space. She waved her hand and said, "Let's go. It's time to pack up." The people of Clear Cloud Palace nodded and opened a portal. They walked in one by one and left this place. Yun Nuoshing walked at the back. When she was about to enter the portal, she suddenly turned around and cupped her hands at the gray-robed middle-aged man with a smile. Everyone was shocked. They looked at the god who suddenly bowed in horror. The gray-robed man was so scared that he felt a chill down his spine. "Thank you for taking care of Feng Qinghuang all these years." The teleportation door quietly disappeared, but the last sentence was still lingering in the hearts of the people of the Blaze Feather family. Everyone felt confused and confused. The gray-robed middle-aged man thought carefully about the reason behind this and smiled bitterly. So, in the end, it was because his merits offset his demerits that he gave up on the extra part. If all of them were villains, the Blaze Feather family would probably have been destroyed after a single judgment. He did not know if he should rejoice or feel regretful about this. In the early morning, the weak sunlight was caught by the dew in the air and fixed in the space. The light scattered on a small green lake and the pavilion. It went through the window of the bamboo mat and into the pavilion. The light fell on the bamboo mat of the pavilion and filled the dark space with warm light. Feng Qinghuang was stimulated by the light reflected by the light. Her long eyelashes fluttered and her eyes rolled up. She looked at the scene in front of her in a daze. Unexpectedly, she felt energized. She had been used to being awakened by the mental shackles every morning before the sun rose. Then, she would go to the medicine test like a zombie. Today, she was awakened by the sunlight? Did that guy forget about it? Or was it something else? Although she was still in a daze, her mind was active. Out of some unrealistic fantasy, she reached out her trembling hand to the back of her head and touched it gently. No. It doesn't hurt. The expected pain didn't come. Feng Qinghuang was stunned for a while. She slowly stood up from the bench and pinched her own face. Ouch! It hurts. I am not dreaming. The mental shackles disappeared. That means that person died? Feng Qinghuang knew that the other party wouldn't let her go easily. The only explanation she could think of was that the ancestor of the Blaze Feather family had died. Only when he died would the mental shackles disappear. If someone broke the shackles, her mind would be affected and she would definitely wake up. However, she didn't have such a memory. Last night, she didn't wake up. It was the first time she slept so deeply. In the past, she would wake up in the middle of the night because of nightmares. Something is wrong. What happened to the Blaze Feather family? Feng Qinghuang quickly pushed the bamboo mat away and jumped out. She didn't even bother to greet the old man in the garden. She rushed to the Blaze Feather family in the south of the city. She wasn't worried about the safety of the Blaze Feather family. However, she was too concerned about the current situation. She had to confirm it. Moreover, even if it was an illusion, she would only be tortured for being late. But if it was real, Feng Qinghuang was silent for a long time. She didn't come back to her senses until she had reached the south of the city. She saw the magnificent Blaze Feather family. She hadn't figured out what she would do after the mental shackles disappeared. However, she could think about it slowly. She wasn't in a hurry. At the moment, Feng Qinghuang was stunned. She stopped in midair and looked at the magnificent Blaze Feather family. Although the huge mansion had been cleaned up, there were obvious traces of damage. There were charred marks. Also, only half of the most magnificent building was left. That half seemed to be newly built. In other words, the building had been destroyed once. It seemed that the Blaze Feather family was attacked when she wasn't there last night? She landed in the Blaze Feather family in a daze. The front door and the front yard didn't show any signs of damage. It was the same for the courtyard and other places. There were only faint traces of damage. The enemy was a powerful warrior who went straight for the root of the problem. They probably succeeded in breaking into the Blaze Feather family. Otherwise, why would the courtyard and other places be damaged? You? Oh, you are here. A voice rang out beside her, causing Feng Qinghuang to tremble. She hurriedly turned around and saw a middle-aged man in gray robes silently appearing beside her. His eyes were staring at her with a complicated expression on his face. Feng Qinghuang didn't expect the third brother of the Blaze Feather family to come out. She thought for a while and cupped her hand. Greetings, Third Master. From what she could remember, the third-ranked god of the Blaze Feather family had left quite a good impression on her. He had taken care of her when she was young, and there were people from his faction as well. However, he had lived in seclusion and her impression of him had gradually faded. This was probably the first time they had met again after a few decades. The middle-aged man in gray robe looked at her and sighed. He waved his hand and said, "The Blaze Feather family didn't leave you a good impression. The eldest brother and the others have been killed. There is nothing for you to miss in this shabby place. Now that you have reached the realm of Divine Master, you can be independent. Go, leave this place and don't come back. Forget about this place." Feng Qinghuang's expression changed. Her hands were trembling because of shock and disbelief. Bound? He shook his head and walked forward. From his sleeve, he took out a luxurious box. He looked down and stuffed it into Feng Qinghuang's hand. "My child, it's over. Although I am not in a position to say this, you are free now. You don't need to think about the mental shackles or that horrible thing anymore. Live your own life. There is a precious Dan in the box. I know you are scared of the Dan, but only this time. This is not a poison. It is a Dan that can give you a new life. It is a pill." When he mentioned the word pill, he saw Feng Qinghuang shudder. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. This was a sin. No matter if it was him or them, when the Blaze Feather family first took root, they were not like this. How did things become like this? Can I ask what happened last night? Feng Qinghuang asked in a low voice. You don't know? The gray-robed middle-aged man was startled. Seeing her quickly shake her head, that expression didn't seem to be fake. That's right, if she knew, logically speaking, she wouldn't have returned to this place. She should have left with that deity. Was there something else behind all this? But it didn't matter to them. What they needed to do now was to repair the damaged Blaze Feather family. They didn't need to think about other things that were not important. Sigh. I don't know how to explain. The middle-aged man sighed and shook his head. He looked at Feng Qinghuang, who was still standing there, and said coldly, "That's enough. You don't need to worry about that. You should focus on your own future. Let's go. The Blaze Feather family is still under repair. It is not convenient for us to receive guests." The middle-aged man in the gray robe flashed and disappeared. A strong wind carried Feng Qinghuang and blew her out of the door. She was put down at the door gently. She came back to her senses and saw the door was closed. She felt strange. She had mixed feelings. She had been searching for freedom for a long time. She finally got out of that nightmarish place. But somehow, everything changed after one night. It happened so fast that she was not prepared at all. She carefully put away the brocade box and nodded at the closed door. She already knew who was good to her, who was bad to her, and who had ulterior motives. Now everything had become a fact. She could begin to think about what she wanted to think about a quarter of an hour ago. Go to the south of the city. Go to the first mountain. If you are fast enough, you should be able to make it. The voice surprised Feng Qinghuang. She looked back at the Blaze Feather family and nodded solemnly. She flashed and rushed to the south. The mountain wasn't far from Taifeng City. because the distance and height were just right. She could see the whole city from the mountain. It would only take her 5 minutes to wake up. However, she had a feeling that she would miss something. Driven by that feeling, she burst out with an unprecedented speed. There was a magical power flowing in her body and forming a blurry shadow outside her body, which increased her speed by several times. Outside of Taifang City, Yun Nuoxing stood on a barren hillside. Looking at the sun that had already completely emerged and was facing the direction of Taifang City, he seemed to be able to see a large shadow of the entire city under the sunlight. He stretched his back and let out a long breath. Turning his head to the little angel, and see you, he smiled and said, "Let's go, it's time to go back." "Are you really leaving?" The little angel tilted her head. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be like this. Although he solved the problem casually, she thought that he should have taken the little phoenix of this era with him. Why did he leave without saying anything? Yeah. Little star, aren't you going to take Miss Feng back? Siyu blinked and giggled. Don't make it sound like I like to bring people home all the time. Yun Nuoxing rolled her eyes at the two people. After a moment of silence, she helplessly shook her head. I just wanted to see her. Well, there is another reason. But it doesn't matter. The little angel looked at him as her golden eyes darted around. She teased him in his soul. Are you worried that you'll interact too much with her and bring her into this era when you're supposed to meet her in the future? Yun Nuoxing blushed and turned her head to roll her eyes. She opened the portal without saying anything. This guy is asking the obvious. But little star, how do you know if you will meet Feng in this dream? You can't predict it and you can't know what you should know. You also said that you are walking on the road of reenacting everything. Maybe this is also the meaning of the unseen. Although the way you met may not be like this, and you may not have helped her in the first place, but for the current reality, those are not valid. Yun Nuoxing was silent. Just as she was about to open her mouth, she suddenly felt an aura rapidly approaching her. Her expression changed, and she turned around to directly crash into the portal. The little angel saw that she was about to escape. She stretched out her wings and rolled someone who was about to escape into her arms. She smirked. You can't escape. She has already caught up. Yun Nuoxing covered her face speechlessly. Did you calculate it so you deliberately didn't want to leave? Well, who knows? The little angel smiled brightly, and everything else paled in comparison. She waved her hand and closed the portal, completely cutting off the thought of running away. Then, she gently pushed him forward. As soon as Yun Nuoxing stood still, a figure in red suddenly landed in front of her. There was an aura quietly dissipating from the figure. Yun Nuoxing couldn't help but open his eyes wide when he saw the aura. He said to himself in his heart, the spiritual shackles have been unlocked. The power of the phoenix has begun to come alive. The little angel giggled and pulled Siyu to the side to make room. Then, she held Siyu to the side and openly watched and eavesdropped. Yun Nuoxing's eyes twitched. What kind of person is this? Feng Qinghuang had already seen him on her way here. Now that she landed in front of him, she was stunned. She didn't know what to say or do. Senior. She clasped her hands and was speechless. After a while, she squeezed out a sentence. Those things are your, well? Yun Nuoxing helplessly put one hand on her waist and shrugged. You can say that I did it, although not all of it was done by myself. Why? Feng Qinghuang looked at him nervously. Seeing his helpless face, she quickly said, I am not blaming you. You have helped me a lot. I am very grateful. But I want to know the reason. Why would you do this for no reason? Well, if we have never met before, I can say that I am doing justice for the heavens. Yun Nuoxing shrugged helplessly and spread his hands. Feng Qinghuang smiled bitterly. He appeared in front of her during the baptism of the 4 gods and said those strange things. Then, he appeared here and dealt with the Blaze family. If it was a coincidence, if nothing happened before, she might have thought it was a coincidence. For example, her enemies came to find her. For example, her plan was exposed and she was attacked by the Alliance. She was just lucky enough to be saved. However, because of what happened before, she couldn't think of it as a coincidence. Alright. Seeing her like that, Yun Nuoxing knew that he couldn't fool her anymore. He coughed and said seriously, "Because I know you. To be specific, I know you from a certain period of time. I know this is ridiculous, but it is the truth. That is the truth." Yun Nuoxing smiled and looked at the pair of pink eyes. They were the same color and the same beautiful eyes. His gaze became gentler. "So, when I knew you appeared, I went to find you. When I knew what happened to you, I was very angry. I wanted to burn the Blaze family to the ground. That is the answer." She had never seen such a gentle look on his face. She couldn't help but want to believe him. But, I don't know you." "So what?" Yun Nuoxing put his hands behind his back and walked to the edge of the cliff. He looked at her and said, "I know you, silly girl." Yun Nuoxing's pupils quivered. His heart beat violently. He felt pain in his heart. This scene was so familiar, just like what Tian Xianin told him. "I don't know you, but I know you, my brother, it doesn't matter. We can get to know each other again." It was almost the same. She said the same thing with the same mentality, so this was how Tian Xianin felt. She was willing to do everything for him, just like how he couldn't help but want to do something for her. It was the same. All the discomfort and awkwardness he felt at that time was just a matter of knowing each other for a few hours or a day or two. Other than the intimacy in his soul that was used as a distinguishing signal, the other party was basically a stranger he had just met. But to Tian Xianin, he had lived with her for a very long time. Even the last memory she had of him, probably not counting the ancient times, was when they were shopping, chatting, and eating outside. It was just that her dear brother had hit his head and lost his memory. It was a strange and awkward feeling for him, but it was already a common occurrence for her. "Do you still remember what I said to you? Who are you? Who do you think you are now? The spiritual shackles have been broken. You should be able to feel it, right? There is a new energy that has been sealed for a long time being born in your body." Yun Nuoxing quickly changed the topic. He smiled and extended his hand to her. "Come with me. I will let you know the answer to all of this. Also we can get to know each other again." Feng Qinghuang looked at the pair of white and slender hands. She hesitated for a while. The little angel, and see you cheered her up for a whole minute. When Yun Nuoxing felt that his hand was not sore but he was embarrassed, she reached out her hand and held the warm hand. She showed the most brilliant smile in her life. "Yes, my name is Feng Qinghuang. Feng Ling. You will know my identity later. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.